Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Zane?
Hey,
what?
man.
Hey, you did a little thing right there. You kind of said, like, whoa. What was that?
No, I'm just, like, excited you're here, dude. Thanks so much for...
I'm excited to see you too, Zane, but that was kind of off-putting. You opened the door and you said, whoa, kind of right in my face.
I did do that.
Were you not...
I think it's just... No, I'm just excited.
It's like you weren't expecting a rock?
I was...
Who'd you ask to do a podcast with, Zane?
I asked to do a podcast with Lvl1 Rock.
And then who shows up at your door, Zane?
A rock.
And you answer with, whoa?
I'm sorry, dude. I wasn't totally sure what to expect.
I'm kind of getting a bad feeling about this whole thing now, Zane.
Are you feeling like you don't want to do it now?
Yeah, I am feeling like I don't want to do it anymore because you opened the door and you said, oh. How do you think that makes me feel? Put yourself in my rock. Wow, Zane, put yourself in my rock. What do you think I feel like?
That made it worse.
Maybe we shouldn't do it. Maybe this is a bad idea.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm really sorry, man. I mean, listen, I'm a big fan. I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry, man.
A big fan. Not enough to have a door ramp for the rock. Or a booster seat. I can tell you didn't even have a booster seat ready. I can look back there, Zane. You don't even have a booster seat ready for me.
Did you just say you need a ramp to get in? I guess that makes sense.
Zane, I think I'm going to have to go.
I'm so sorry, dude.
Yeah.
If there's any way we can, like, meet in the future...
Nah, I'm just busting your balls, Zane. We could go do the podcast. Come on, let's go, Zane.
You fucker, dude.
Yeah, dude, I'm a fucking rock.
You're a fucker.
I'm a rock fucker.
I was feeling genuinely bad.
I mean, you could have sweeped up a little bit. It's kind of dirty over here.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, and I do want that booster seat.
You do need a booster seat?
Yeah.
I have some, like, books you could sit...
Sure.
Okay, in all honesty, you must get this a lot, though, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you are a rock?
Yeah.
Okay, so you understand that it's, like, a little surprising.
At first, yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
I can be a little forgiving.
And like, I know we're joking here, but I probably should have not said whoa. So I am sorry about that. Thanks for being cool.
Yeah, wildly uncomfortable way to start a conversation, Zane.
Okay, dude, okay. How did you get here, though?
I drove my car.
Okay, yeah.
Look, maybe we should just get to the podcast.
Do you need a ramp, actually, to get in here, though?
No,
like,
you kind of need to... Hey, don't fucking touch me.
Okay.
Yeah, man, I'm, like, so excited that you can make it. Like,
this is awesome, dude. I've never done a podcast before. I never thought I would do a podcast. Hold on one sec. I gotta take this.
Is this real?
Yeah, right now? Yeah, I'm not doing anything. All right, fine. I'll be there in 6 minutes.
You gotta leave now? Is this a bit?
I know I was kind of fucking with you earlier, Zay. It's not a bit. I have to go. There's a very serious rock danger that I need to take care of. This is super unprofessional of me. I'm not even joking. I have to go.
I mean, take care of what you need to, but like, should we reschedule or?
No. You can talk to my human. He's outside. He's actually on the creative team. He could talk to you about my video essays.
Will that work or like? Wait, no.
Zane. People are in danger. I don't have time. I'm sorry. With all due respect, this is a podcast. I gotta go.
Who's your human you're bringing in? Who? Ian?
Zane. What's up, man?
What the fuck?
Hey, long time no see, dude.
Dude, what the hell?
Sorry, kind of making a mess over here at your studio.
Wait. You're on his creative team?
Yeah, dude. You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, that's what I've been up to this whole year.
I've never seen you post about it.
Well, I've kind of been a little bit to myself.
Wait. This is we've done an episode together before. You didn't tell me you were coming.
Well, I guess we have some catching up to do.
Is it like a good job or like I can't tell what's up with that guy. Like, how's working with him?
Okay.
Yeah.
He's an artist, so he has his opinions, his strong opinions about things.
So is this like a ghostwriting situation or?
Hey, man, I'm not here to reveal, all the behind the curtain, all of the, behind the scenes knowledge, but I do work on rock projects. Yes.
Okay. I guess we'll just catch up then.
Yeah. Maybe we just you and I talk.
I guess it'll be like the same interview if you're the one like writing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. You're good. Amazing.
Yeah. Cool. Hi, Ian.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. I did a half committal intro for Estelle Allen, and then I did like a real committed intro for Pete. So I've been considering if I should do intros from now on, or if I should just do the natural talking leading into it.
You know, whatever works. It's your show, man.
Do you want an intro?
Sure.
All right, okay. Hey everybody, you might know this next guest from his music videos under Domino Effect. He's now making amazing video essays under Lvl1 Rock with, damn. Okay, let me
you
get
one.
It's
so
take
hard.
Your time. It's so hard being like a game show host all of a sudden.
Take your time.
It's so unnatural. But I honestly, like, it's one of these things where, like, I've been trying to, I think, circumvent some of these traditional things, but then I realize it just actually does work better for YouTube.
We can talk about game show hosts later.
Oh, like putting on that persona?
Because it does make you appreciate that part of their craft. It's like your job is to deliver the energy and the premise concisely. You have like 15-30 seconds. Hey everybody, this is what we're doing. This is why you should be excited about it. Let's go.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, okay, there's a craft to that for sure.
All right, let me go one more time.
Yeah,
okay.
take your time, dude.
As you rustle the ice. Yeah. All right. Everybody, you might know our next guest from his music videos he directed under Domino Effect. He's now making incredible video essays under the channel Lvl1 Rock. Today, we have Ian Q. Baker, or Lvl1 Rock. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man. How you doing?
Good.
Thank you. Yeah, honestly, for a long time, I wasn't planning on associating my real human name and face with The Rock, but given that there already is a video of us on this channel having a 2-hour conversation, I was like, okay, that's like an inevitable thing. Plus, also, I just like talking about art and like what I'm working on and stuff. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I always love talking with you. We've only done one episode together, and I was totally thrown for a loop when you posted that you've just been secretly making video essays all year, and like with like a pretty good like number turnout. And then I looked into them, and I'm like, these are really good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I was like, we should get Ian to talk about this.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I honestly barely told anybody about it. I didn't know. Because the short version is that I like burned out of music videos. You know, I feel like my whole life I've bounced from hobby to hobby, from thing to thing, whether it's a few months at a time or a few years at a time.
Yeah.
And music videos lasted the longest. Like it was like 5 years I was doing that, but it did get to a point where I wasn't really having fun anymore.
Yeah.
Plus, you know, a lot of life is complicated. It's never just one thing. There's a lot of overlapping other changes, you know, just been going through a lot of changes over the last few years. So having like a change of voice, a change of mediums was very unexpected. And it's just so weird. I'm still getting used to like making video essays because my voice and, you know, my thoughts in the form of sentences never were related to like music videos. Like you come up with ideas, but contributing like my own voice and things like that is something very new. And you know, like everybody doesn't like their own voice, but it's just a very different form of expression. But I think what pulled me into it is seeing like how creative people are with it. Like there's like almost anything you can do with it. I feel like it's
with video essays.
Mm-hmm.
When you
I said the same thing about music videos last time.
Oh, that's really funny. Well, when you say
that's just what's good. You could do anything with video in general. I feel like
when you say that your voice wasn't a part of music videos, do you mean literally your speaking voice?
Literally how now? Yeah, because
so not your creative voice.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely I feel like I developed my creative voice a lot through music videos. And, you know, like I kind of said before, like I still have a passion for music videos. I think I'll still do them here and there, like as passion projects. But yeah, as far as like with music videos, if I'm pouring all my energy into something, none of that is my actual like voice that I'm using right now, Ian or Rock talking. And it's just a very, very different thing, but basically what my premise was in making this channel after burning out of music videos was like, I just want to make whatever I want. I just want to be able to share my thoughts and feelings about things. Like, the Smiling Friends video is one that I planned out and wrote, but then like the Tyler the Creator video was just because like that music video, Sorry Not Sorry, came out, and I actually was like obsessed with it for like a few days when it came out. I was like, this song is so good, this video is so good.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts about it. And I was like, the whole reason I made this channel is so that when something like this happens, I have an outlet to talk about it. So why don't I just fucking talk about it?
Yeah, totally. I'd love to bring up just what you've put out so far. I mean, this is a really good output for like a first year. I mean, you might have as many video essays as I do now after doing it for like 3 years. And like kind of similar to what I went through, your very first one is the one that took off.
Yeah.
Which I don't know about you, but my first video essay was about Tyler during the Igor era. And after a month it had hit like 1,000 views.
Right. And
then like a few weeks later it just randomly just was going up like steadily, like 100 every hour until it was like eventually at like 10,000 and 100,000. And I went from 60 subscribers to like 4,000.
Yeah.
And it looks like you've had a similar thing.
Yeah,
happen, so.
it's mostly from the Smiling Friends video. There's a few other videos that I feel like, but most of my audience I feel like came from the Smiling Friends video.
Yeah.
And the algorithm is the most mysterious thing ever. Exactly like that, where like its initial, viewing from your audience it's immediately exposed to, it might add up to like 1,000 and stay like that for like even a few months. Like in the case of that one, I don't know if it was just because it was my first video and they give you like extra algorithm juice or something, like, oh, let's see, people like this new channel.
Yeah.
But it was like a couple weeks after I'd posted and it was at like 1,000 that it started slowly getting views and then snowballed for a bit.
Well, I watched that one first, and I think it's really, really well written. And then I watched your new one, which is an hour long. I've actually watched it like twice.
Amazing.
Because I watched it once, and then I think the next day I just kind of like clicked on it on accident. I just kind of let it play while I was working.
Yeah, we take those.
And then since then, I knew I was going to interview you, so then I threw it on like a third time, and it kind of got halfway through. And so now it's just because honestly, like you just kind of talked about very good mental health stuff. I guess as a introduction to your channel, you're mostly talking about pop culture, but you're more so discussing mental health concepts, and you're kind of using pop culture as like a backdrop for those ideas.
Yeah, I feel like, obviously my first video was talking about a cartoon, and then so, some people might see that video, then go to the rest of your channel and be like, oh, so they talk about cartoons, let me check it out. And then next video I'm talking about rappers, and then I'm talking about a music review channel, and then an absurd comedy sketch, and then I have some Eminem shitpost bullshit. Like I want to make whatever I want. Like I said, like I don't ever want to be boxed in. That's one thing I love about your channel is you have you're very versatile in your creative output. Like I always want to keep that freedom.
Yeah, here I'll pull up like my playlist as well, but, because I think we have a lot of similarities going. Like, yeah, I started, they're not in order of release, I guess, but yeah, I started with Tyler, and then while I was making it, I made my Animal Crossing one simultaneously, so they came out like a week apart. And then after that, I started kind of, taking more time and stuff. But yeah, I think from there I went to like anime with My Hero Academia, and then another cartoon with Midnight Gospel, and then like this one I made in like a few days just to like challenge myself again, and then this one took months and months and months, and this one took months and months and months,
right?
And this was another one that I just kind of like pooped out in like 2 days, Right. And I think it's kind of my worst one because of that.
It's still a show I know I need to watch. There's so many shows and movies I know I need to watch. That's one of them. I know it's going to be good when I watch it.
Well, I think similar to what you said about being so into the Tyler video and just wanting to make a video about it.
Yeah.
See, like, I definitely have a lot of personal pet peeves with other video essayists in terms of, like, things where I think sometimes certain videos are, like, lower quality or they were, like, made too fast. And so I can be kind of hard on myself when I'm making my own about making sure they're up to certain standards. But at the same time, kind of like what you said, I'm like, also just trying to have fun and make stuff.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And so I made the rehearsal one just kind of like right when that pilot came out, just to make something really quick. And then later I was like glad I made something for fun, but then also like, maybe I could have waited, or this could have been better.
I
But
feel like that's the infinite push and pull of creativity. Like literally that fun versus perfectionism in art video was one I made in a day. I think it's funny that the half of the thumbnail has SpongeBob in it, because that's what it was about. Is I was heavily overthinking Crisis, Catastrophe, and SpongeBob. Some of my friends close to me know that I was heavily overthinking it many times. Like there were many points during making it that I was like, I literally couldn't imagine anybody listening to this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and have you heard like the Martin Scorsese quote of like, when you watch your rough cut back, if you aren't like sick to your stomach, like you've done something wrong, like...
Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah, it was that, because there was such a long period of time where I was going back and forth between, I need to just finish this and I need to completely rewrite it, like, and I like,
yeah,
to the point of even like different chapter titles, different chapter structures, like, no, this is all wrong, I need to do it completely different this way. And then I would sit down to like rewrite it and get like one sentence in and be like, holy shit, this is so much work to rewrite it. And even if I do it, I will just be back at where I was, but like a version B instead of version A.
So that video is like an hour long, and I know there's various sections where you'll include like a psychiatrist talking for several minutes, which I think is good because she's making full points, you know? That being, so, you know, obviously that lowers your personal runtime of narration a little bit, but for all intents and purposes, let's just say you speak for 40 to 50 minutes in this video.
Yeah, something like that.
How many pages roughly was the script?
I feel like it was like 25 to 30.
Interesting.
And there were so many different versions of it.
Because my late night video, I think, is my longest one at like 26 minutes or so. And I think that's like an 8-page script.
Wow.
But
so you show a lot of clips?
There's a lot of clips. And right now I'm making my first ever like big 1 hour behemoth of a video the way that you did, you know? And I think I'm going through a similar thing where at times I'm like, why have I procrastinated this so much? I just want this to be out. There's so much work left to be done. And then some, and in my mind, I'm like, I bet it's like really bad. And then sometimes I'll open the project file and I'll be like, wait, this is so close to finished. I just haven't looked at it in a few weeks. And so I keep wavering between, this is actually really good, and like, oh no, I need to fix it completely.
Right. There was a really good Earl Sweatshirt YouTube short that came up on my YouTube the other day. And he just said like something to the effect of like, advice he would give his younger self is like, you know, you're still on the ride doesn't change, but your perspective does. I feel like that's obviously very true as like a long-term thing, but also kind of like you're saying, within the, whether it's a few months or a few years working on a project, like almost on a daily basis, like you have a rotating perspective of the own thing you're looking at. And this is something I definitely experienced with music videos was like, I just, the sacredness of like the first time or the first couple times you play something back, when you're like, let me try something, I think this could be good in this scene, and you do it and then you watch it back and it works. Like there's only that first time that you watch it back and see all those elements come together and it works. Like as you start watching it more and more as an editor, 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, you become so desensitized to it and predictive that it feels very, you feel very jaded.
I'm glad you said that, because I've been saying something very similar for a while, and I think it can be a little bit of an abstract concept. And so when I describe it to non-editor friends, I wonder if they fully get what I'm saying. But like, to me, it's kind of like you could be making a puzzle, and it's almost like, you know, you see all the little pieces, but it's like until you literally put in the final piece, you haven't actually even seen the painting. And so, like, for me, like, I recently put out a music video that, like, I think now is really good, and I'm really proud of it. A lot of the time while I was editing it, I was, like, just hating it and thinking I had, like, fucked up and not made something good. And, like, it wasn't until, like, it was, like, just the final 2 clips were placed that I felt like I was seeing my own video for like the first time. Yeah. Like it's kind of like when I'm showing my finished video to someone right when I finish it, I also feel like I'm seeing it for the first time, because when you're editing and you're watching back your drafts, but there's still things you need to do. Like maybe you'll be watching the video, and then there's just like a section of black, and you'll have
feel it in your head,
and then in your head you imagine what's going to be there, or maybe you'll have like text, but it's not like animated yet, so you have to like imagine it good.
Explosion
right?
sequence.
Exactly, and so the whole time you're editing, you're getting like closer and closer to your final product, but you literally spend so much of your time watching back your own work, like playing imagination.
Yeah.
So the first time when you're finally done that you hit play and you just get to sit back and just every single second of the video just is the video, and there's no more like suspension of disbelief in your head. You're just watching it like any other audience member. I always like feel at that point like I am the audience and I didn't just make it, because it's the first time I'm just getting to like see it as like a whole thing, and that's when I'm finally like, oh, this is good.
For sure. It definitely is that like whole is greater than the sum of its parts thing. Like when I was having the worst of that, like I shouldn't even finish this sucks, no one would ever listen to this, was like before I had any of the clips of the psychologists in there, before like the final music was selected and stuff, it was just like I had finished recording everything, so like an hour-ish worth of voice was in there, but with very little images over it, and very little, supporting clips. And I feel like that's when it started to feel a lot better, is by bringing in the other perspectives and being like, okay, this isn't just like one asshole talking. Like, it's like I don't know. You just become so jaded and desensitized to your own thing.
I'm interested in here really quick. It's this time of day where the sun bounces off my car and just exactly into my eye.
Amazing.
And I tried. Okay, there we go. The shot is much nicer with those up, but I was just like getting fucking blinded. Yeah, I'm interested to discuss like what we have in common and what we disagree on in terms of like pet peeves with other people's video essays and like what we like aspire to do well, because like, for instance, you just said like you wanted to bring in a bunch of like a professional's perspective rather than relying too much on your own narration.
Yeah.
And like I always grapple between, I'm like, okay, if this is my video, then maybe I should be talking most of the time, but then other times like a clip will just so perfectly make the point I'm trying to make. I'm like, why do I need to describe this when I can just let this clip play?
In the SpongeBob video, for a few of those parts in like Squid's Day Off, I have little clips of me like mimicking it, like exactly like, you will not go back to the Krusty Krab. I will destroy the Krusty Krab. And then he throws the mirror and shit like that. Like, I had a few of those and was like, do I play my own voice clip of it, or do I just play the actual clip itself? Do I play both? And I was just like
what's redundant?
Yeah, as much as I love my own silly clip, it's like the actual thing that I love the most, so I put it in.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you that I learned about Dodford because of your podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I think one thing that Dodford does very well is letting people tell their own stories, like the not over explaining, so that it's knowing when to add your own voice and when to show versus tell. I think it's something they do very well.
Well, I think what Dodford has like really cracked into, like, since he and I had talked, was like he's now at this point pretty much just making full-blown documentaries.
Yeah, they're great.
He and I talked when his Donald Glover video was blowing up, and I was like, obviously I had one too, so I was like, this will be an easy guy to talk to, And at the time, I feel like maybe his videos were still like a bit like, and I don't even fully know what the distinction is in my mind, but they did feel more like YouTube video essay-y, which I like that content. I'm not saying that's bad at all. But it also still featured like face cam footage of himself, like talking to camera. So like it had like a YouTuber-y aspect to it. And since then, like his videos are like 80% clips, like 20% his guiding narration. And that's kind of how a documentary is. Like, you use like media evidence to like build a story, and then the filmmaker jumps in when they need to just like bridge things.
Right.
So now like he's really just letting like existing stuff pave a story, and he's just working as a really effective editor, like putting it in like a good order that works.
I notice a lot of people like that too, like on his Adam Sandler video, which is really good. The Adam Sandler Paradox. I saw a lot of people.
I think that's like his biggest video.
Yeah, that one's big now. A lot of people were saying like it's amazing that you like let Adam tell his own story. I saw that being highlighted a lot too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It's and that's what I love about, and that's what I mean when I say like you can do anything with video or video essays, is like, you know, that's what I loved about music videos, is how open to experimentation the field is. Like, I guess I just look at creativity like experimenting, like every project is an experiment, and regardless of what it turns out to be, what, you know, how people receive it, like there is an idea that you had and a goal you had set out to do, and you learn something from the process. But absolutely, I feel like Dodford stuff is kind of like mini docs, you know, like their channel is like a little Netflix, you know, like.
Yeah. You know, when I was like a freshman in college is like when Every Frame a Painting was going on.
Right.
Are you a fan of this channel?
Yeah, this is one of many channels that I've only seen a couple videos.
Okay.
But I know of them.
So to me, like, I think of him as like the reason video essays became a popular genre personally, because to this day, like, he's like not only like the first video essayist I watched, but I still think he's the best one personally. Like, I just think that his writing and editing is like so unbelievably like effective.
Okay.
And in my mind, I think because of that, I remembered his videos being longer because they feel so information jam-packed. And now, like, in retrospect, I'm like, dude, this one's like less than 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And like this one's like 5 minutes. And I remember like just learning so much from them. And the reason I think of him as so influential is like his views are crazy. He literally retired after barely doing it for like a year.
Oh, when was his last video?
It was like when I was finishing college. Yeah, in like 2016, I want to say. And the thing is like, I remember it was very apparent that him and Nerdwriter were like besties. And Nerdwriter, his channel was getting big at the same time. And so they were like these two big video essay channels. And I think like Nerdwriter, he was kind of going in all sorts of direction, like talking about like tons of different stuff the way you do. And he started to integrate in like a lot of motion graphics stuff that to this day I now think is like sort of the meta. So I kind of think he grandfathered that a little bit. But he would always, you know, give credit to Tony here doing Every Frame a Painting, you know, for also being one of the other great ones. And I think what really was special about this channel is like his writing was like super intentional. He never really went on like side tangents or like joking diatribes or like talked about himself or anything like that. He just like explicitly like stayed to the task of his thesis. And like the clips he used on screen were always like just the utmost perfect example of like what he was talking about. And they were like short and sweet, and like his videos just have like an editor's like rhythm, you know? And I like longer content because it can be really entertaining and good, but also I think a lot of video essays, like, I don't know, there can be clips on screen that are like barely relevant to like what's being talked about, you know? It's kind of like they phoned in like making their case as good as possible, or like maybe a lot of the word count is like just too much, you know? It's like they're not staying to task, I suppose. And like this channel was just so concise and so good. I don't remember what my original point was, other than just like praising this channel.
Well, absolutely. I think that's one of the most important things about video essays is like efficient information, you know. And I think this is an observation I've made of why I think super long videos can exist and why we keep watching them is like, you know, you look at it as like, why would anyone watch this? There's a really good video that actually explains it. I don't know if you've seen this video pop up. It's called The World's Most Advanced Video Editing Tutorial.
The world's most...
There it is.
No, I don't think I have.
We don't have to watch. You can just look at its existence. 4 hours,
Holy
19 minutes.
Shit.
So here's the thing. If you don't have to click on it because we don't need sound.
I'll
but
click on it and
but
mute it.
Cool. This is something he explains in the first few minutes. He's like, you're looking at a very long video. Yeah, computer's heating up trying to process it.
Why?
Great video. Oh, and I don't know if he still is, but at the time I'm making this, he was an editor for Linus Tech Tips, and so he like this tutorial is like start to finish editing like an episode of Linus while he goes through like literally everything he's learned in video editing. But anyway, it's like, why would you watch a 4-hour video that's insanely long? And
this one's 9 hours long.
Same guy, different guy?
Different guy. Sorry, sorry not to cut you off.
You're good.
I just got blown away. That's like half of a day.
Yeah, insane. But he says in the first few minutes of that video, like, don't think of this as a long tutorial. I'm condensing everything I've learned in X amount of years of video editing and putting it in one place. So think of it as a very short tutorial. It's only 4 hours to hear all of these years of experience. It's like, oh, well, you put it like that. And I think that's what a lot of, maybe not all, but what a lot of long videos are. It's like, yeah, it's an hour and a half, but they're covering 8 seasons of a show. Like, this is very efficient. Like, and it goes back to that thing, like, with music videos, I felt it was a game of, like, putting hours into seconds. Like, you spend hours and hours and hours to make a 30-second video, a 2-minute video. Still kind of the same thing. You're putting tens, if not hundreds of hours into, like, a maybe 1-hour video, 4-hour video.
There was times when I was making my late night one and it, was becoming my longest video at like 26 minutes. And, I was covering a lot of different subjects, talking about like 6 different guys basically, and like different eras and all this stuff. Yeah. And like, there were times where I had clip examples that like, maybe instead of a minute, it was like you're just watching 2 minutes of something else before it gets back to me, And I would be proofing back my edit, and I would just mentally remember, like, okay, I'm into this because I'm into this. I mean, obviously, I'm the one making the video, but I would, like, be thinking as an audience, I'm like, it feels like it's dragging a little bit here, or this might be when somebody gets a little bit bored, or they, like, forget what they're even watching, you know what I mean? And so there would be moments in the edit where I would think, like, as much as I want to keep this feels a little self-indulgent right here, and this might actually be the thing that like decides if this is a video with like 2,000 views or if it like has like a million
this
views.
Is where everybody drops off and the diamonds were like one more swing away.
Because when I'm watching like my favorite video essays, whether or not it's like a 5-minute one from Every Frame of Painting or a 40-minute one from Emp Lemon, I think the thing that has them in the thing that they all have in common is that they're just good the whole time.
Right.
And like moment to moment, it's going from something interesting into something interesting, and my attention is just totally held. And so I think long videos are good, like if you can achieve that.
Right.
And I think that yours really do. Like I really liked, seeing your short one first, and then seeing the hour-long ones like also be awesome.
Cool. Thank you. I feel like I had a point. Just what were you talking about like 1 second ago?
I was talking about being self-indulgent in the edit.
I think it was something on the short content, long content.
Yeah. Interesting moment to moment.
Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you. You did remind me. It was like, because there are videos that I love that are 3 minutes long and videos that are 3 hours long, but it's almost like as long as you have good things to say, it doesn't really matter what, because it's like your decision to keep watching or stop watching doesn't really matter on what the number is. It's just how compelled your interest is. And, there's very long videos that do keep my interest the whole time, and I'm also a very big repeat watcher.
Oh yeah,
a Quality Culture is good. I need to
oh yeah, you've heard of them?
Yeah,
I found Quality Culture because they have this feature film length, essentially documentary on Hayao Miyazaki.
I need to watch that one.
I think it's the maybe best video essay I've ever watched. Okay, like I've watched it like several times this year.
Yeah.
And because I do a lot of motion graphics, so I can just throw on TV in the background because I'm not using my brain.
Right.
And like, yeah, this video is so good because like it's very pointedly about like his conflicting ideals. And so like if you look at the chapters, like they do split it into like nature, war, heroines, the present, longing. And then even within nature, it's like nature and Nausicaa, nature and Totoro, nature. So they split it into sections and then subsections. They use all of his movies as circumstantial evidence for the central argument they're making. And then on top of that, they use like historical context, like using documentary footage of like the making of these movies. They wind up pulling in like old Japanese like articles that they had translated. They read his like 2 autobiographies and like had those, you know, like they use as much like evidence and like historical stuff as they humanly could to like make their cases.
Yeah.
And it's just one of these videos where you're like, this is on point, it's on task, it's undistracted. They're using as much evidence and like works cited as humanly possible, and it's just like a good ass video.
Yeah.
And it's like the length of a whole movie.
Right.
It's just so cool to see that this is like possible now.
Right. There's plenty of channels that do that as well. I feel like, as far as
Oh look, I left a comment.
What'd you say?
I said this was very helpful to me in the first video I've seen from your channel.
Yeah, I need to watch more quality culture. There's just so many channels. Like, this is something I always come back to, is I guess just like coping with living in the information age. How, you know, like I start my Smiling Friends video by talking about how much media there is and how it's impossible, even if you committed every hour of every day to like, okay, I'm going to watch everything on Netflix and Amazon Prime and all the other streaming services, and then I'm going to watch all these video essayists, and I'm going to watch all of these music videos. Like, your lifetime couldn't consume a fraction of what there is out there to watch, which is great and terrifying. And so I feel like, how do you navigate like so much content? Like, how do you choose? I feel like the best way to go through that is to just follow your natural curiosity, just whatever your intuition and whatever you're hyperfixating on now. Like, it's like, embrace that, because that's the most fun and natural way to navigate what is an extremely unnatural pile of content.
Yeah, it's something I did this year that I think maybe I'll do in just future years of my life. I actually created a Google Doc. It's like interests 2023, and every month I've been journaling like the things I was like just super into that month. And then, because I think in some ways like the things that you are fixated in and like you're putting your time into, and that to like feel things or learn things, like does sort of color your memories of that time. And so I think it will be interesting at the end of the year to like look back at January and be like, oh yeah, I was really into that, and then it turned into this. And so I need to do my little write-up on like what I was doing all of August. And yeah, I'm with you with there being so much media, and like to me, like a lot of the stuff I wind up like spending a lot of like rewatch time with, or like fixation time with, is stuff that like was personally meaningful to me in like an emotional way, or like a mental health way, or like an epiphany way, even.
Exactly.
And so like your video was really helpful. Honestly, there's been a lot of principles you talked about in that SpongeBob video that genuinely has been, I think, helping me a bit lately.
Great.
And then similar with quality culture, you know, the Miyazaki video inspires me as an artist a ton. And then Frog and Toad, their video about like simple living, like was fantastic. And like it's this funny thing where when it's free time and it's time for me to just enjoy something, I can't think of anything to watch. And then when it's time for me to work,
everything's the most appealing thing ever.
I'm like, oh, I could just play the new Zelda for the next month straight and like not even care about my accomplishments.
Are you a Jacob Geller enjoyer?
I've never heard of him.
Okay, pull up Every Zelda is the Darkest Zelda. Great segue.
That
Jacob Geller Zelda.
That is such a modern video essay ass title.
Dude, it's the first video I saw from him.
Because every video essay these days is like, I'm just the boldest claim of all time.
Dude, he does a great job supporting it.
Well, I'm sure I'm not making fun of the video. It's just funny to me that video essays used to be like, here's this game I like, and then it turns into this video game is the darkest one. And
I feel like
so then trumping on top of that, every single one is the darkest one. Like it's this upping the ante.
Right. I feel like the big thing I see is I did this. I blanked blank. You know, I did blank.
Actually, now that you say that,
I ran a blank into blank.
It's so funny you say that.
Watch
Watch this video that came out literally today.
Bought 400 horses and made them skydive. I blew up a $3 billion car. I ruined my 100-year-old grandma's birthday by filling her house with Nutella. I watched 14,000 minutes of Mr. Beast interviews and destroyed my brain. What else?
Yep.
I undermined 300 million Americans' faith in their election.
Man carrying
Yeah.
thing is so good at pointing out like what stupid thing other people.
Yeah, I've seen a few of his videos making fun of video essay tropes.
His whole channel is just making fun of like media tropes from both YouTube to Hollywood. And like I swear to God, when I make stuff now, this guy is in the back of my mind of like, would man carrying thing be making fun of me right now for how I'm doing this?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, okay, word.
Okay, Jacob Geller.
Yeah, so first video I saw from Jacob, you scroll a little bit more.
Every Zelda is the darkest
Every Zelda is the darkest Zelda. Great video.
I love a 40-minute video. That's a good length.
Yeah, it's a good length. And it is a dark video. Every time he's talking about Zelda, it's dark, but then he'll interlace. Yeah, perfect. Go back a little bit to Human Him in the grass. Yeah. And then he'll intersplice some wholesome.
Oh, that's nice.
Like, because he just was talking about a bunch of dark shit, and now it's like a little break from that. And then we go back into the dark shit. And
He has a powerful mustache.
he's got a great facial hair.
Wow.
But I don't want to spoil it, but there is some creative editing done in this video that I really enjoy, possibly
Okay.
where the most replayed mark is.
Okay, but should I not be?
Maybe not.
Okay.
Maybe watch it when you get a chance.
Okay.
But there's some creative editing done in there that, you know, really affirmed. I guess I already knew, but this was my first time seeing it in action, where I was like, oh, like the stuff you can do with this medium of video essays, of course, is fundamentally different than what you can do with like a written essay. Like your ability to be nonlinear, to use music and sound effects and visual effects. You know, it's like, wait a minute, there's so much you can do, and like, you know, one thing I love about YouTube video essays is while we're often aiming at very serious and important topics, there's such a casual, like, grounded in earth, like, this is a fucking YouTube video. It's mostly made by like one person, you know, like for the internet to watch for free. And so I love that takes like the shackles of formality away, and it can be more loose and like literally like filled with absurdist memes and bullshit, but you're actually still like talking about real shit.
I think about that a lot because like I was pretty much an A-B student in high school, and I took honors classes, but like I remember when we wrote essays in our English class, our teacher would like give us like a score, and like 9 was the highest, and I never got a 9. And I remember she would give you like a little special like thingy, you know, like, here, you got a 9, and it'd feel all special, right? And I remember sometimes if somebody had like a particularly well-written passage, she would like read it in front of the class the next day, you know, and that never happened for me. And I always had this thing where I was like, I want to write that well. And I think about like how kind of, as you're saying, like there's this casualness, you know, and I picture like if I was in high school English class and maybe I wrote a point a little bit too casually, I'm sure it would get like red penned, marked up. But it's ironic because if you do, you know, because that's coming from like an academia like standpoint, which has its, you know, place and validity. But if you think about just like how humans like learn and pay attention, we've kind of found that video essays are like, you know, using sound and visuals and then also like personal casualness really actually helps people learn shit and be interested in shit. And that's why it is a meme. Like my pleasure is watching a 4-hour video essay on a video game I've never heard of, right? And it is interesting that like you can draw people in and get people to like really like want to learn a bunch by using kind of non-scholarly type techniques. Like I think about how like when you give PowerPoints in school, they say like put supporting interesting stuff on the slides. Don't just write on the slides what you're going to say word for word and then write it and then just say it, because what's the point of even having it up there then? But in a way it's like, why not, maybe? You know, because if everybody's looking up there and listening to you, it's like that, you know. So there's just like all these rules that you know.
And I'm a very big visual learner, so that's why I just use the simple red arrow. It's like, this is literally exactly what I'm looking at, what I'm pointing out right here. Look right here. And so like I definitely want to get better at my motion graphics and stuff too, because I think being able to show exactly what you're talking about while you're talking about it, going back to what you're saying of showing the perfect clip. God, dude, that takes so long for a 1-hour video.
You're telling me that's what I do.
What you're doing right now. Like, it is so hard for a 1-hour video to get you know, most of it's up to speed with like good edits and pacing, but it really does make such a difference. Like when you are showing what you're talking about while you're talking about it, I feel like it drives the point home. I don't know, because there's also videos I watch or listen to where it's just a person talking or it's just a voice talking, and I can imagine everything that they're saying. But I guess it's just a balance that everyone finds, how edited you want it to be.
I mean, there are some channels I watch that are very casual in their approach. Like, it is mostly just footage of them talking to camera, and their clips are kind of whatever. But because they're just good writers, or maybe they even just create like a appealing vibe. Even it's just pleasant to watch or listen to. It's like, then it doesn't anger me per se. I think sometimes there's other videos that like posture themselves as being this really good, polished, like professional video, but then it's like, I can tell it's kind of half trying, and then I'm just like, you don't deserve all this praise. You didn't try that hard.
Right. And there's, like, you can take it as seriously as you want to. Like, I think an important part of me of doing Lvl1 Rock is taking myself a little less seriously. You know, like, it kind of feels like that to me, of more just like, I made this because I want to talk about stuff that I like. It's just sharing the thoughts and feelings that I have. And not overly taking it seriously. I reserve the right to remain a Lvl1 Rock. You know?
Well, it's I texted you about the freaking here. I texted you about your Eminem video with the 6-minute rule.
Yeah, that video kind of bombed.
So this video, you explain that Rap God was written in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And so now in life you should take your increments of 6 minutes.
You know,
and then you said this video is a complete shitpost filled with fake news, basically.
You know, I stand by it because I fundamentally stand by I'm gonna make whatever I want to make, and I wanted to make that, so I did.
I like the video. I enjoyed it.
I think it's my least
successful
video.
Is it all lies? Is the Rap God story like completely made up?
No, he actually does do everything in 6 minutes. This is actually his. I mean, I don't want to spoil what's in the video, but this is how Eminem built his empire. And
okay, so he actually builds his empire by doing things
using
in
the 6 minutes rule. Yeah,
that's a thing he heralds around.
Right. Yeah.
So for you, is the shit postiness of this then just you acting like this is like,
you know,
a feasible technique for everyone?
You know, I guess if. To be completely honest about this, I have a complicated relationship with videos like this, because I make fun of that type of stuff, you know, like you can 10x your productivity, you can 40x the Gary V and Grant Cardone shit. It's like, I don't know, man. It's a complicated thing because I consider myself someone who's really into self-improvement, so I have nothing wrong with the simple, humble pursuit of trying to better one's life. But there's plenty of that, and I spend a little time on LinkedIn at my job, and I see a lot of LinkedIn posts that are very much like that. I think that's kind of
the
nature of
bro shit.
Yeah, and it's just really big in like the corporate world, like, everyone's out there using ChatGPT, but 99% of them don't even know the top 7 tricks. And it's like, I just get so annoyed with with that premise, and like, can't we just be honest about what is this really gonna 10x my productivity, or am I gonna like learn a convenient trick? Can we just like be honest? Like, this will help out. I have a valuable trick right here. I don't know. So I guess I was kind of making fun of those types of just completely shallow like fake guru productivity shit.
Yeah. No, I mean,
and also I just love 6 minutes. Like, it just feels good to say 6 minutes and to do things in 6 minutes, and I think it's a fantastic strategy that you could achieve any level of success, as proven by Eminem.
It was a very funny video, and I also was procrastinating that day, and then I like set a timer for 6 minutes, and I did like all my laundry.
Yeah. As soon as you realize that an hour is just 10 blocks of 6 minutes, that's the paradigm shift that gets
that fucked me up a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, it's a video I made and it's there, but it's the only one where I'm not saying things I actually believe. Every other, that's why I felt kind of weird about it, because it's like, oh, like I have all these video essays where I'm actually talking about things I like, and then there's that one, but it's okay.
Well, I think a lot of the channels that are really successful, or maybe a lot of the people we like, if they're not consistent with the topic they talk about, then maybe at the very least they're like tonally consistent. And so I think maybe something you and I have in common is like, am I allowed to be like this serious channel and then also this funny meme channel?
Yeah, and you think about that, because it's like the question of like, how much am I choosing my next video topic because I want to make it, and how much am I choosing my next video topic because I think it will grow the channel
or like fit an identity?
Yeah, and it's like maybe you go half and half on every video. Maybe you're always trying to make stuff that like you think has a chance of being, because I guess the way to think about it, at least the way I do, is like all that the algorithm cares about is maximizing time on YouTube.
Right.
And that doesn't mean, you know, like when someone watches one of your videos, if they go and watch another one of your videos, that's like best case scenario for you. But if they go watch another YouTube video after yours, that's all that YouTube cares about. They don't care if they're watching more of your videos, they care if you're watching more of YouTube.
That's such a good point. We'll see, like, okay, my videos, like, I don't even necessarily want to call them serious, but it's like I'm trying to like make a point in like a somewhat professional way. But then this Spider-Man video I made, I was just so goddamn mad about how they were marketing that Spider-Man movie, and how like their entire marketing tactic was just, let's just spoil the whole movie to get people to want to go.
Wow.
And like, so I decided to like just make this video in a
ranting.
It's just me ranting and like using really funny pictures, and like I literally I literally made this video in 1 8-hour sitting.
Amazing.
You know, and I just made it real silly, and I had a lot of fun making it. You know, I got a few thousand views, where like, you know, these podcasts more so get like a few hundred views. So it is like higher than average, you know, than like my average post per se. And it was just fun making this. And I was like, you know what? I don't fucking care that someone could go for me talking about serious stuff. Like, why not to commit suicide? And then
literally
getting angry about.
And that's this is the crazy thing too, is like, as we're entering the world where we're all becoming more aware of parasocial relationships and things like that, I can say as someone who's now starting to make content, and I'm sure you've been doing this longer than me, it's so funny how, you know, you make a video and then the timelessness of that, and that version of you saying those things is there forever. It's so funny to get comments on a video that I put up a few months ago, and it's only a few months. It's not even like a few years. I'm like getting comments. It's like, dude, I'm over this. I said this like 3 months ago. I'm not even thinking about that anymore. But like to them, it's like you just said it and it's like fresh and new. And and in years, like, you know, I know that happens all the time where people are still getting like comments about like videos from years ago, and it's like, dude, like, I've moved on. Like,
well, dude, I put out the Donald Glover Kanye video last year. You know what? You know what kind of comments I'm getting this year? You know what kind of
100%.
neo-Nazi shit I'm getting this year?
I'm sure it's terrible.
Yeah, I had a brief moment where I considered taking down the video because I just felt so like bad about all the recent Kanye shit, and I never really decided to just like leave it.
That's the other thing. Is
leave
like,
it up.
Context changes. Like going back to like, you post a video and then there's like a chance it might get like an algorithm boost, but also it just happens in very unpredictable ways. Like, and you never know when a context change will happen in the world that makes your video different. Like, that's a context change.
Well, see, I in my case, I was very intentional with that video, and I even prefaced this at the beginning, even if people kind of miss it. I was like, I'm gonna be not only specifically talking about them as artists and that mythos, but like during this year of 2013, you know what I mean? Like, that is what we're talking about here. And so I kind of did intentionally create this like personal life separation in terms of like, we're not necessarily talking about that. And then sure enough, the next year he goes on to do and say the worst shit he's ever done. And so I'm like, all right, this video actually technically still works, but it still doesn't feel great. You know? But yeah, getting YouTube, I don't know. I similarly, like, the late night video is like my biggest one. And to be honest, like, a lot of the comments are from conservative people who just hate all of these hosts for being like woke or whatever. And I'm like a leftist who made this video. And so it's very funny because like every day now, still like 2 years later, I get comments from people being like,
Right. And a lot of times your video is just the place to talk about like these late night shows, for example. Like
Yeah.
this is the most relevant place to contribute to this conversation. So it's not even about like you, Zane. Like it's
No.
just this is the playground for this conversation.
Yeah, well, that's what's interesting is like I don't know if you've started to get this yet, but I'll get some comments that clearly are talking to me more as like me, Zane, the guy who made this, and other people where they're just having like a forum discussion about the topic of the thing I made.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
kind of like what you're describing, and
Yeah.
so. To me, I've just chalked it down to being interesting because I'm like, because it is like an interesting way to like learn about the world and like these opinions that are out there.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, there's a guy out there who likes this and feels this way about that and is talking
Right.
like this.
Right.
And like, I feel like in some ways my worldview is like broadened a bit because of it.
It's so weird too because it's subjective how they watch their video. You don't know if they watched your whole video and then commented, or they watched 2 minutes and then said some dog shit and then left.
I've gotten a zillion comments that say, why don't you mention Craig Ferguson? And to be fair, I do barely talk about him, but there is a section about him. It's like less than a minute long, but it is there.
Okay.
And every now and again, I'll get like a self-reply that says like, my bad.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it yet when I wrote that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
YouTube comments are like so funny.
Yeah.
It's like better Twitter to me.
Yeah, I'm you know, you definitely learn how to distance yourself from it a healthy amount. Like,
Yeah. Well, I just heard like so many celebrities say that like they're mentally healthier because they just don't look at comments or tweets in any way. And I'm like, all right, that seems to be a pretty good golden rule. So.
yeah, it's, I don't know, it's weird because like I feel like you make videos like mostly to serve, I guess ideally, mostly to serve that like 10% core audience that likes your videos for you, and it's like they're watching you because no matter what topic you're exploring, they're just interested in how you explore ideas and your creative voice and things like that. And that maybe it's like a 10% core audience, maybe it's like 5%, but that's the most important audience, of course. Like you'll get big boosts here and there because you talk about like different subjects. Like, I don't know, again, with my Smiling Friends video, like giving me a good start, I don't know if that was just because it got some algorithm juice, like it was my first video, but if I were to hypothesize, it would just go back to, I believe they just want people to spend as much time on YouTube as possible, so it's just like rabbit holes, right? Like, so if there's already, this is just my hypothesis, if there's already so many like Smiling Friends video essays and Smiling Friends content out there, and this one could you know, add to that pipeline, add to that kind of cyclical content suggestion, then, and maybe be an entry point, then they're gonna use it. But
I think that like you just kind of made like a just like perfectly well made digestible video in the sense that like your style reminds me a lot of Emp Lemon, where like your graphics are extraordinarily simple but like effective. Like this meme on screen, like you clearly just took a picture and wrote text,
yeah,
and like bada bing bada boom. But your point being made is like super easy to understand.
Memes are the language of the internet.
Yeah, and like similarly, every single clip example you use, I remember, was on task. You weren't just letting random B-roll play while you talk. Your narration and your writing was like very to the point, and anytime you sprinkled in like your own personal humor, it was like good, and then also like kind of brief and like not self-indulgent. And so to me, like I think sometimes videos like this really take off because it's like this algorithm thing of like people watching a video that's really good from a channel that has no following, which I think makes people excited because it makes them feel like I've just found a gem.
Right.
And so in a way, like I think maybe you did just crack the algorithm thing of just, if you have a really good, effective first video, YouTube is just like, this will make people happy.
Yeah, maybe. Well,
That's how I looked at it,
yeah.
at least.
Well,
I was like, it's just a great first video.
I'm glad you think that. I'm glad it did. I feel like I try to, and with every video, I try and add something to the conversation that hasn't been said, or at least that I see hasn't been said, because you never know. because I watched a bunch of other Smiling Friends videos.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, because there was just very new show, just one season out, like 8 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
11 minutes each, and so it's still very new. And there are a few videos that I saw just talking about just general appreciation for it and watch this new show. I didn't see any attacking it from the angle of like this. It's important that the first episode was the first episode. Like I kind of say at the end, there's a number of episodes that they could have made the first episode and would have succeeded conceptually, in my opinion. Like this is just a good concept, and now I get the point of the show. But I loved and admired the balls of the show to, in the first episode, confront someone who's so depressed and suicidal he's like actively holding a gun to his head. Like they are not shying away at all from what the show is trying to do, who it's trying to reach to, who's trying to speak to.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was a phenomenal way to, again, going back to the conciseness of videos, whether it's every frame of painting or an 11-minute well-written episode of television. It's like to set up that premise, explore it, unpack it, and then again, go watch the episode if you haven't already. But spoiler for the end of the episode, like they don't even convince Desmond to not kill himself. It's not even like the Smiling Friends did their job and they're like, no, you should be happy because friendship power. And he's like, you're right, friendship power. I guess I'll just stop being depressed. Like he kind of like has the last word in the argument and they're ready to throw in the towel, and then he stumbles his way into finding a purpose for himself. Yeah. And I like that so much more, I think, because getting through to people, like I consider myself someone who's used to be more nihilistic and cynical, and working on being more like optimistic and stuff. Like people like me and people like that, I think, don't ever like the silly sugar-coated positive message of just like, oh, we're just going to put like the happy lesson at the end of the episode and there's your magic answer and it's that simple. Like, I don't know. It felt way more satisfying that Desmond really got to explain for himself like his meaninglessness in the universe, and then for him to find something himself. They didn't have to tell him.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually, really quick, I think I'm going to...
You're good. Can I actually get a quick bathroom break?
Yeah, go for it. It's right there. It's fun. So with Smiling Friends, I had like never heard of it, and then my older brother came over once just for like a quick amount of time, and we have a very similar sense of humor. And I've said this before, like so much of my identity in terms of like what I'm into is because of him. Like I think of like every single one of my favorite bands or like shows that I got into or comedy that I got into when I was younger, and I'm like, damn, Sean showed me that. Sean showed me that. So it's only been like as an adult, now I'm like, I'm not just like living with this guy showing me cool stuff all the time because he's like 3 years ahead. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so sure enough, he came over once and he was like, you want to see like an episode of this new Adult Swim show? It's like really good. I'm like, yeah, sure. And he throws on the pilot, and I instantly like love the art style. And instantly I was like looking at it, I'm like, wow, this is like an art style I haven't seen before, but it feels familiar somehow. The colors they're using are awesome. It clearly has its own personality. And my first takeaway in that sense was like, oh, this is like the new one. Like this is the new thing. Like we did Rick and Morty, which is still going to exist. I'm not saying it's over. Yeah. But I was just like,
yeah, I think Smiling Friends is up next for sure.
Yeah, and I think like culturally we go through these eras. Like we were in the SpongeBob era for so long, and then eventually it became the Adventure Time era as like this is the new like the It cartoon, And it's like the original thing doesn't even have to die, but it's just like after enough time some new visionary creator comes out with a thing that it just feels undeniable. Like everyone's going to love this.
Which I think might often be like the generation that was inspired by the previous thing. Now it's their turn to make stuff. And so, because I feel like the Smiling Friends show has to be influenced by SpongeBob on some levels. I like, they have a couple moments where they do like the extreme close-up and it's like a live action, like disgusting shot.
Yeah,
which
like
I felt
the SpongeBob shots.
Felt like a nod to SpongeBob. There were a couple of those that I really liked.
Well, I'm sure it just, like, the people when they're younger and they see this stuff, it just colors our sense of humor and, like, what we think of, like, as a joke.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
for them, like, they might even subconsciously just think, like, it's a joke to do that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly. on subject of, like, people that show you so many things that you like, yeah, I had an older sister who put me onto a lot of things. My friend Josh, shout out to Josh on lunch, he has put me onto so many creators and artists and stuff. I think one of the best video essayists he put me onto, I don't know if you've heard of CJ the X.
No.
I have to credit Josh for putting me onto them, but CJ the X is already incredibly good. They're already goated.
Okay, and
you know, you could watch Bo Burnham versus Jeff Bezos is a classic one.
that sounds good. A few more things I want to say about the Smiling Things pilot is, I've seen this guy.
Yeah.
Or not guy, I don't know. Are they non-binary?
They're non-binary.
Okay, this person, my bad. I had a hunch.
Yeah, but they're fantastic because, you know, you see that's a 2.5 hour video, and I think their channel header is extremely accurate. It's, I'm not talking too fast, you're listening too slow. They talk insanely fast. For like 2.5 hours, and it's fantastic. Like,
that might be hard for me, honestly, but I will watch it.
Yeah, I think they're already making incredible videos, and their potential is so high, it's crazy.
That's awesome. When I was watching the Smiling Friends pilot, like, I wasn't even really thinking about it in like an analyzing way, the way you did about like mental health stuff. I was just kind of enjoying it as like some new comedy and animation.
Right.
And when it cuts to the shot of like the dude they're helping, Desmond, I just lost it. Like, I was laughing so fucking hard when they showed that guy and just how decrepit they drew him. And then do you know who the voice actor is?
Oh yeah, from Red Letter Media.
Yeah, and like that guy just has the funniest voice. So then like when
a lot of people love him,
you're like, hello, I'm gonna cook a pizza roll, or like, it's just like,
no, he's got the perfect voice.
Yeah, so when he answered the door and he just had a gun to it, like I just was laughing so fucking hard. And it's interesting because like obviously like Rick and Morty is animated a little bit more polished, visually, and then it has such a, nihilist, post-ironic, breaking the fourth wall, kind of post-Deadpool, like, sensibility. And Smiling Friends, so far, they're not doing any wall breaking, so it is very grounded within its own world. And then as far as its sensibility, like, it's all, I mean, not to be all like, it's post-ironic, whatever, but like it's in this interesting zone where it is really nihilist and it is like really extreme. But then at the same time, like, I don't know, I haven't even really thought about it enough to like have like, I guess, like a perfect thought on this.
I guess that's definitely, I think, why Smiling Friends feels so refreshing to me, at least, is because of coming off of cynicism and nihilism. It's very refreshing to be like, we all know that we're nothing in the universe, like we're so tiny, it's meaninglessness. But are we just going to, like, live with that our whole lives? Because this kind of sucks. Like, you still want to live comfortable and improve your quality of life. So it's, like, kind of coming out of that, Rick and Morty era of, like, not saying that defined it, but to your point earlier about, like, cartoons having their time. I feel like it's very refreshing probably to a lot of people to have something where, unironically, the point of each episode is, like, fighting the good fight, like optimism, like happiness, it's just like the fundamentals of like goodness, that's why I think Smiling Friends is so simple and important. Like, I felt like,
that's a great way of putting it. I felt like philosophically it felt like the logical next step of where we were
coming back around,
of where we were gonna go after Rick and Morty, but then also in terms of how like Rick and Morty has primed us for like what to laugh at and stuff. Smiling Friends does have this sense of just showing something really, like, scary or fucked up. Just like, whether it's Desmond just answering the door with his gun to his head, or when Prim is, like, running away from that forest monster. It's just like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah.
And that reminds me of, like, very classic Adult Swim with, like, Aqua Teen Hunger Force and just, like, how, like, weird and grungy, like, the animation can get,
absolutely.
And how just, like, jarring and unsettling
Yeah,
things
yeah.
can be.
It's very satisfying in a lot of ways.
I haven't finished Smiling Friends. I think I've watched about 5 episodes of it or so, but the Mr. Frog episode is like
So good.
because it's horrifying when
Yeah.
Mr. Frog just eats people. Like,
Yeah.
like you're
Oh,
just
yeah.
at danger of being
Yeah,
eaten.
and he had the most successful show. This is a star. This
Yeah,
guy is
he's-
a movie star.
Well, they have
Or
a scene where he's
TV
on Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, yeah,
it's, just,
yeah.
it's so
No,
fucking
it's incredible.
fun.
I think Shrimpina is one of my favorite episodes.
I saw
It's the
that
third
one. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love the character Shrimp
Yeah,
so much.
watching that show, I feel like on my toes the whole time watching
Uh-huh.
it. Like I don't feel safe for the characters like at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Because like the drop of a hat, some like a character like Mr. Frog could just eat you.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
think
what-
that's a big part of Adult Swim shows is, they're so good at subverting the traditional formula, they're so good at subverting expectations.
I want to talk to you about your new one, Crisis,
Please.
Catastrophe and Spongebob. So
Amazing.
you talk about a lot. So you kind of explain how, as an adult, you're more able to see that the comedy writers of original SpongeBob were actually really basing a lot of their jokes, if you break down the POV of them, of dreading existentialism, aging, crisis, anxiety, and depression. And while some people maybe could say you're reading too much into it, bro, if you really do look at the subtext of a lot of the jokes that, like, as a kid, they made us laugh so hard because they're just expertly presented jokes. But if you really think about, like, what the joke is, like, for instance, right here, like,
300 years ago.
This is your natural habitat. This is your wide open range.
like, clearly that's coming from an adult writer who had who's experienced
There's a
having
feeling that is being expressed there.
like, as a kid, like, that's funny, but now as an
Yeah.
adult, you realize, like, okay, this guy probably had some shitty job at one
Yeah.
point, and now he's, like, making a joke, like, this
Yeah.
is where you live now, right? And so you used SpongeBob to talk about all these, like, emotional and existential subjects, and then you tie that in with, like, actual psychological research and principles to kind of talk about helpful concepts that can help the viewer. And as a viewer, I thought the video was very, very good.
Thank you. I feel like it's, that the thing about how art reflects life.
I accidentally had two of you talking at once.
all
My
good.
bad.
The thing about, like, how art reflects life, like, people will be like, oh, I read The Art of War by Sun Tzu when I was 10 and it meant this to me, then I read it at 20 and it meant this to me, and 30 and 40 and 50. I think that's just part of the human condition, is, like, the meaning that you read into things, you draw out of things. That's also, like, a constantly changing, rotating thing. And that's really what the premise of starting this video was to me, was like, obviously we all love SpongeBob because it's funny when we're kids. You get a little older and be like, okay, the witty humor was actually, like, really good here. And then I just found myself so interested in those episodes. I was like, wait a minute, the whole plot of multiple episodes is, like, someone's freaking out, and then the big punchline is at the end we find out there was nothing wrong the whole time. That's procrastination and Squid's Day Off. Like, SpongeBob and Squidward lose their minds the whole episode. There was never a problem. In Midlife Crustacean, I wouldn't say there isn't a problem. Like, Mr. Krabs has a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
But, I feel like the older you get, the more you can recognize, like, what you perceive as genuine writing. And I've mentioned this in the Smiling Friends video. I believe why they were capable of writing an episode like that, that's, like, confronting someone who's completely hopeless and nihilistic. To write an effective episode like that, they most likely spent some time with those emotions themselves. These aren't outsiders. They're, probably one or more people on the creative team back there had gone through, most likely all of them had gone through, like, dark times. And I think having that real perspective is what makes your insight actually valuable, And so when I look at an episode like Procrastination or Squid's Day Off, it's like, absolutely, this could just be written as, like, a conflict that has nothing to do with anything the actual writers have gone through. But I feel like the best writing being honest writing, that's just what it feels like to me. Like, you're able to write about how catastrophizing can ruin your whole day. How there was nothing wrong in your day the whole day, but you thought there was the whole time because you've actually done that.
Yeah.
You know, and then I started to like see like this is stuff that like I'm actually doing. So I don't know if any of the writers actually like lived through that themselves, but the writing seems to seems like an expression of those feelings, and I think that's something really awesome about cartoons. There's a quote I can send you that Steven Hillenburg said about like how the people making cartoons now are just the previous generation that watched the previous thing. When you make an episode like Midlife Crustacean, you're not expecting the 8-year-olds watching it to get it, but when they become 28, you know, like, and the things that entertained them just because it was like silly and funny on the surface, is like the nostalgia that brings you back to something that really all along had like a very honest, infusion of fear.
Well, I remember it's kind of just masterful writing where it's like on the most surface level, it's just really funny gags. Like as a kid, you think it's funny to see Mr. Krabs have to eat a giant fucking pill go down his throat. It's funny to see this boy like escorting him around like he's like, you know, immobilized or something. Like just that's conceptually funny. And then you realize like it is coming from like a real human perspective place of like what it feels like to get older and stuff. And so as a kid, like you understand the general premise of the joke, like oh haha, he's old and he feels bad about it, ha. But then, you know, as you get older, you kind of realize like how real of a feeling that is, you know, and then it just feels even better written.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I think when I was starting film school and I was trying to be a good writer and I was like really struggling, I had realized that a lot of my favorite films came from a place of like trying to say something. And I think like, you know, my early writing habits that weren't that good yet was like, I would think of something I really felt inside and I would think, okay, I'm going to try to make a movie that says this. So I would have like, here's a commentary about life I'm trying to say, like written down. And now I'm just trying to arbitrarily like construct a story around that can somehow get to that point, which never really got me anywhere, you know? And seeing something like SpongeBob, like it is clear that they're just taking like little everyday feelings and they're just presenting it and hyperbolizing it, you know? Like we all know what it looks like to like look in the mirror and not like how you look, you know? And so for them, they're just like, okay, let's just have Mr. Krabs reveal that he has like 12 chins. Or like, let's have Squidward, you know, embody the rundown adult and have him kick his bicycle and have it for no reason explode because because like that's hilarious, but because that's hilarious, but that's also like how it feels inside, even though it is so hyperbolized. And that's why it's so funny.
Yeah. A point that Jacob makes in that Every Zelda's the Darkest Zelda video, it's like, when you're a kid and you watch stuff that's like designed for kids but does carry more meaning like Zelda or even SpongeBob, it's like as a kid, even though you don't fully understand it, you still can sense that like something's there, you know, like there's still something more there, like watching SB129 as a kid when Squidward's in like nothingness and like the White Room, like we don't know exactly what that was or what that meant. It was weird and uncomfortable, and I feel like that's all it needed to be. Like, you know that something's there that you'll probably understand more later, and I think that's such a classic episode. I'll tell you now, like, I think I want to do a video that's fixing that list of the top 100 episodes that I mentioned in Crisis, Catastrophe, and Spongebob.
You want to do a better top 100 list?
Obviously, with the joke being that this was votes from kids, and obviously I'm not trying to flex my taste on them, but I think it's really interesting because that's what we as kids voted. I don't know if you voted in this 20 years ago.
No, but every now and again I would vote for the Kids' Choice Awards. Go on Nickelodeon.com.
I think it's indicative of, you know, it's what the kids were saying were their favorite episodes at the time, but most people consider the first 3 seasons of SpongeBob like the golden era, and then I think season 4 is like hit or miss. Yeah,
there's some good stuff.
That list came out right after 4 aired, so that's why there's a lot of classics in there, but then also some hit or miss. And I think the fact that 4 just came out and it's like newer animation and it was the latest and greatest, I think that spiked. I think that inflated its votes. But I think I'm gonna do a video kind of fixing that top 100 list, because it's like if you were to show like a baby or an alien who had never heard of SpongeBob at all, like, why is this like one of the biggest shows ever? Like, I consider it like one of the greatest, if not the greatest show of my generation's childhood. It's like, what's the big deal with SpongeBob? You're not going to show them fucking Karate Island and Dunces and Dragons.
You know what's okay? It's so funny you say that, actually, because for one, I'll just briefly say I actually really liked the Dunces and Dragons episode, just because
I'll
like,
hear you out.
As a kid, I just thought it was fun, and
Sure.
and the Flash Player game they made for it on Nick.com was really good, you know?
Okay.
And sometimes I liked like spin-off things like the caveman episode, right? Like, oh, I get to see them as cavemen. Like that, sometimes that kind of special engagement episode type thing can feel like a little special and fun. But you're right, like the writing of it is kind of coming from nowhere. It's just kind of randomness, and it's just not as funny or poignant as these other episodes.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Karate Island, I forgot about that episode and how fucking bad it was.
Yeah.
I remember when that episode came out, it was one of those flags in the sand of like SpongeBob is different now, like visually and tonally.
Yeah.
And I think when we were kids and it was happening to us in real time, like we could sense it, but not as well as we can now in hindsight.
Couldn't pinpoint it, yeah.
And like, yeah, dude, that episode, I forgot about it completely, but I remember now because of you, they used to rerun it every like fucking day.
Dude.
Do you remember that?
Dude, it was the number one episode.
I am shocked by that. When you showed that top 100 and procrastination, what I learned in boating school was last. That and Karate Island was highest.
So you know what's
that
crazy?
Blew my mind.
I was slightly wrong because I remember them advertising this. I thought it was because there was a total of 100 episodes they were doing this. There was like 40 episodes that didn't make the list
from the original 3 seasons.
So that list is of like 4 seasons,
Okay.
and so there's some 4 and some 1 through 3 that are on the list, and it's atrocious. Like some of the bangers didn't make the list. And that's why I need to fix it and put the actual top 40 that aren't on the list out to the side. Get the actual top 100.
Okay, I have 2 suggestions. One, if you want to just keep your top 100 to the first 100 episodes made, and anything after that doesn't make the cut, maybe that could be a good way to go.
I want to fix their list. I think.
I know. Well, I feel you. I guess like if episode 105 is really good, then maybe you should include it and just make it the true best 100.
Yeah.
If you want to make an extra long video and throw me in there and have us compare notes, like,
oh my god,
we both do our 98, we both do our 97, I'd be down to join you.
It'd be a 6-hour video.
I could join you for the last 10 or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah,
my people reach out to your people.
Yeah. If not, it's totally fine. But yeah, sure. that sounds super fun. Like a few months ago, I got together with some friends and we had the idea to like bring back some food and some wine, and then we just like took turns choosing an episode of SpongeBob to watch, and there was like 3 of us.
Yeah.
So I picked one, and then he picked one, and then he picked one, and so we must have watched like 7 or 8 that night.
Yeah.
We were laughing so hard.
Oh yeah, holds
like
up.
Because there's some stuff that I thought was hilarious as a kid that like these days it just doesn't even make me laugh out loud anymore. Like, I appreciate it. It's good. I don't even think it's bad, but like it doesn't elicit anything out of me like that. It's been fried.
Yeah.
SpongeBob, on the other hand, I was like barreling over laughing at some of the jokes.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
I think it's like some of the greatest comedy writing.
You tried to kill me over some new age management, like, oh my god, this type of stuff is like he really just said that. That's awesome. Yeah.
Oh my god, like I'm trying to.
Subsidiary of Viacom is a banger.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
When you pointed, I was like, oh, I don't even I kind of remember that now.
Oh yeah, and just going back to like the infusion of genuine fears. Like, you got that clip of Mrs. Puff saying, like, sorry, I'm late. I just got caught in the whole I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life thing. And it's like, they just threw that in there, man. Like,
yeah, well, also,
like, they didn't have to do that.
I remember, I think we watched the first Dollar episode, like, when they go out on the boat. And, like, I forgot, like, Mr. Krabs goes, like, just fully batshit insane.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for his millionth dollar.
Yeah. Millionth dollar.
Yeah. Have you seen, I bet if you just search Back on the Grill, it'll come up, the Krusty Krew Anthem.
Oh, I actually want to make a video about that video.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, so lately something I've been grappling with is like, I've been making more, just for the pursuit of making myself happier, making more things, simplifying the video making process and having more things to upload on my channel to just make it a little bit more consistent. I've been making simpler videos lately, like stuff of me just like talking to camera about life or whatever. When it comes to these like media commentary videos, I've been wondering how casual I want to go before it feels like it just belongs on a side channel. So I'm thinking maybe this will be a side channel thing because it's not going to be that deeply analytical, but I kind of want to just make a video nerding out about the Krusty Krew Anthem because I think it's like...
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
Let's just watch it because like... Dude, my thing about this video is it's like animated insanely well. It got a dumb amount of views in like a week.
Yeah.
It became the #1 song on like Spotify or whatever. I found out this isn't even official. This is fan made. Like the original musicians didn't commission this. I went in the credits. The producer who made the beat, he had the #1 song on Spotify, and he has a YouTube like gaming channel, I guess.
Nice.
He didn't even make a YouTube video about Krusty Krew Anthem. Like this dude literally is riding high. Like this was like way after it blew up.
That's so funny.
So like this dude's riding high with the #1 song in America, and he's just not even acknowledging
He's just
it, just
chilling.
posting Best of Mario Party or
He's just
whatever.
chilling, dude.
Like every aspect of Krusty Krew, I'm just like, this is like a miracle this even exists.
Yeah.
Because it's animated like
It's so good.
so well.
It's just unironically a great song.
That's the next part. It's unironically an incredible drill song.
Yeah.
When I first heard it, I thought that all of the voices were like AI, and then my friends explained, no, these are guys just rapping in SpongeBob impressions, and they're making it like sound good.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's great.
Like SpongeBob as a rap ad lib, like is like
That part is fire, dude.
but it sounds like hard, like it like actually goes.
Yeah,
like,
Mr. Krabs is like angry, kind of.
Mr. Krabs just sounds like well, they have Patrick sounding like Rick Ross, and it's just like a good like fucking trap song, basically. Like here, earlier I said it was drill. I don't know if it actually, if you would call it drill, but it trap, I guess.
Sure.
But
Brand new bag for Pearl, but I didn't pay for it.
Like just the detail of Pearl shaking her head for half a second there adds a lot to that shot.
But also animation wise, the fact that he intentionally like overexposed it. Like everything's bright and blown out the way like a lot of like early 2000s rap videos are. Like I remember I was showing this to one of my friends who's an animator, and I pointed that out. He's like, "Yeah, why did he do that?" I'm like, "Because it's like it's accurate. Like the way that it's like red here, but then like blown out here. Like the shirt here in theory should be blue, but he cranked up the gain. You know." And
That's
also,
awesome.
like, the lyrics, brand new bag, but I didn't pay for it.
Yeah, everything is excellent.
Like, let's just, sorry.
Brand new bag for Pearl, but I didn't pay for it. I don't like spending that cash, cause I'm trying to savor it. Secret formula, I went and put flavor in. I do not fuck with no plugins, I can't let no haters in. Sponge boy, get back on the grill. The customers already waiting, they already pay for the meal. Squidward. You been through the deal. Keep watch for that little boy that's plotting on me. I know he gon' steal.
Like, dude, like Squidward going
Yeah,
like
I think
it actually sounds.
Yeah,
sick.
I think it's unironically a really good song. And then, as countless people have pointed out in the comments, like the fact that the animator clearly knew the source material and had some tasteful references.
Super tasteful
references, great pacing, great shot composition. Like a lot of these still frames like this,
incredible shots.
Just go hard. Like
cinematography wise and like lighting design wise, like this looks incredible.
The lyrics, like it had no business being as good as it is,
because
it's excellent.
Like simultaneously right now, the shot is composed well. The lighting is good. The choice to then blow out the lighting to be like respectful of rap videos, or I guess like reference them. The episode references of SpongeBob. The vocal impressions sounding like the characters.
Right.
Somehow making them the characters sound good as rappers.
Yeah.
And then the writing is not only like on subject, but then the lyrics go hard in a vacuum.
Oh yeah.
Pulling off that much at once is like, this video is like a miracle.
Literally, like it's expertly done. I wouldn't change a thing.
Not selling no patties, that's chummy. I open my doors, they start running. It's in the van when we open doors, just like the bubble ball. The patties are
Yeah, SpongeBob is one of those evergreen like remix medias. Like, I don't know if you've seen, this is also on YouTube. There's like a fan-made version of Band Geeks where a different animator animated like every 5 or 10 seconds.
No.
It's so good.
That sounds cool.
That one's insanely good, and there's a...
Oh, this is my favorite part of the song. Squidward's flow right here, like, is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
Ain't no more customers up in this restaurant, you know there's no saving him. No. They can barely get by, he eating the holograms, living a lie. We kicking them out if he step on the spot. They're watching me flourish, I'm watching them rock. Damn.
Like,
So
New bag for pro.
excellent work, everyone.
the whole down, like that flow.
Yeah, all the ad-libs.
Pay for it. I don't like spending that
This
cash
show
because
is
I'm trying to
insane.
save.
Oh my god. Yeah,
Just
like
clutching money.
clutching up high, framing him all low. His eyes are half closed, like.
Secret formula.
And then this classic episode.
I do not fuck with no places. I can't let no haters in. Sponge boy. Get back on the grill.
Like they pulled off telling the story
Yeah.
of SpongeBob like through the lens of like a trap video.
Yeah.
And like the characters are like being honest to like who they are.
Very well done.
No. That sounds cool. Like making Patrick's dumb laugh sound like a dope like Rick Ross thing is like so.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing on the Krabby Patty. That's a whole bunch of stuff you can't steal. Whatever.
Amazing.
And then
We had to-
Finn because they're fish.
Yeah.
Like goddamn, like dude, like this is.
No, yeah. Definitely make your video about it. I would love to see your analysis.
Honestly, everything I just said is like
Yeah.
what the video would be. It would just be me geeking out pretty
Yeah.
much. That's I kind of want to just do that on a side channel,
Yeah.
kind of on like a casual like type thing
Right.
where I'm just like saying stuff. I guess not
Right.
Absolutely. Not to demean what her channel's very good. I like her channel a lot, but I'm just saying like there are like a lot of people in their bedroom just kind of like talking
yeah.
about subjects, and it's not like.
Right.
Anyways, I feel like I'm digging a hole.
You're
I like
fine,
her
my
channel.
dude.
It is
You're
good.
fine, my dude.
Yeah, God, this shit is so good. Do you remember the SpongeBob anime?
Yep.
The
I have seen that.
Oh my god, Bubble Base Arc, I think. This is another one where it was just animated like outrageously well.
A Narmac animation.
Yep.
Like another thing, like this is like pretty well written, like story wise. Like they make a plausible SpongeBob story where he has to go fight the dude, for it to get the formula back. But same thing, like the animation quality is like crazy high.
Yeah.
For like
Some really talented people you can tell were behind this.
and
Well, okay.
and then like this dude, they make this dude just like the perfect anime villain.
Yeah.
And then
Honestly, Bubble Bass brings me back to my SpongeBob video because I was debating on whether I should talk about pickles.
oh, the
in
pickles
yeah.
episode about
There was a certain point where I had to draw the line between what was and was not in the scope of the video. Mm-hmm. Because with the
it's kind of the self-indulgence thing I was talking about. Like, do I want to just talk
No,
forever, or
literally,
do I want to
yeah.
tighten this up a little bit?
yeah, like with it being Crisis, Catastrophe, and SpongeBob, for a while it was just going to be part 1, part 2, part 3, just named each of those
Yeah.
Crisis, Catastrophe, SpongeBob. And I was like, okay, I want to talk about the midlife crisis and the quarter life crisis, and then maybe we'll also talk about like the identity crisis. And rather than talking about missing identity, where he just loses his name tag,
Yeah.
I'd actually talk about the identity crisis that happens in Pickles when Bubble Bass gaslights him when he does make the sandwich correctly and he tells him he didn't have any pickles on it,
Yeah.
and that fucks with SpongeBob's whole world.
There aren't any pickles.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that, and I was like, I need to decide what is most important here. Like, what is my point? And I was
Yeah.
like, definitely the one I'm most interested in talking about is the quarter life crisis. And I feel like midlife is important to start with as like a way of understanding that.
Yeah, so my 1 hour video is going to be about H3 podcast and like why not only is it my favorite, but more importantly it's specifically that I think it's like the most innovative podcast, and I think that like if you really look at what they're doing as a whole, it's just like actually like insanely impressive.
Okay.
And so the thing is like they do 5 3-hour episodes a week, and so constantly they're doing things that is like a better example of what I currently have in the edit as like my example of what to show. And so like kind of what you're describing, just having like, oh, I can include this and talk about this. Like sometimes I get like evidence overflow in my head where I'm like, okay, I could now add this and have them play back to back and now show the audience 2 examples of what I'm talking about. Or I can replace my old thing with this new media I found that works even better.
Right.
But like sometimes I do have to draw a line of like, because my brain will just make connections. Like I'll think of something where I'm like, oh, that supports that point I was making.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I'm like, I don't need it. The point has been made. And it's like, even though I can think of more things to say to make this point, it's like, let's just leave it where I already have it.
Right.
And I'm not a concise person at all. People know that. So
absolutely. I mean, I feel like a beautiful thing about the medium, you know, like, are you the type of person that like you'll reference like movie quotes like all the time? You'll go like
in real life?
Yeah, like with like your siblings or friends or something, like, oh, we both love this movie, and then you'll just like
You mean like comedy quotes or like philosophical things?
Comedy quotes, like Hot Rod.
When I was younger a lot, and these days it's kind of really more situational, like maybe like, you know, like in Hot Rod I'll think like, this is totally my hat.
Yeah. Like things like that. There's things like that where do you ever find yourself like in a real life conversation where you want to express that, but maybe they haven't seen the movie, or even if they have, they can't recall that it's from that moment? That's the thing about like video essays. You can just like show that instead of saying it yourself, and I feel like that's a beautiful thing.
I see. Like you have this thing.
It's like an outlet for like the ADHD brain that like has like thoughts like that pop up in your head all the time. It's like, I'll just show that because that's what I'm thinking.
Well, it's actually funny you say that, because one of the biggest elements to me for the comedy of H3 is that their sound guy has like an arsenal of like literally at this point like hundreds of sound bites.
Yeah.
This is a fan-made website, and it doesn't even have close to all the sound bites from the show, but like so many of them are so funny.
Wow.
Like
extra large and extra hard.
Whoa.
Pussy clot.
I can't jerk off to this.
Wow.
Stick your finger.
Big massive dumps.
Wow.
Dan, please stand up.
I'm gonna come.
Yep, classic.
I think he's fucking stupid.
You're on the wrong street, cuz.
That's the dream, is to have an amazing soundboard library. I like how they're alphabetized.
Well, like I said, like a fan, and it's by the person who said it as well. But like the point is okay, like this is a great example.
Semen is another kind of milk.
So like a lot of these are like insanely funny, because like what'll happen is they'll react to a funny clip, something is really funny, so then he clips it for future use, and then if context calls for it, this guy's like brain connection will be like, oh, I'm gonna slam the. You know, like maybe like Ethan is drinking coffee. He's like, hey, can I get some milk for this? Like he'll probably then just like hit this, and then it's really funny for the audience.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like Arrested Development, the way like the inside jokes just like they just
build on themselves.
Yeah. And so very often now, like me and I think other fans of the show, in life, these like kind of like you said, movie quotes, these sound bites will just trigger in my head, but if I were to say it out loud, it would make absolutely no sense to the people around
and
me.
now you can express it exactly as it is in your head, with,
in a
where
video
you are
essay.
saying your point, and then it cuts to the soundbite, and then straight back to your point.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. I definitely want to try and bring some, you know, of the like musical element from my previous role in music videos to video essays. Like I try and do some of that in the SpongeBob video, you know, where there's kind of like musical sequences a little bit, and we're blurring the line from just like making points to, you know, cutting together a scene or a montage. Like I feel like you can and should do whatever you want, especially if it plays on the things you like.
My video essays kind of honestly tend to have like wall-to-wall music, and so I was pretty impressed actually at you not doing so much music, because I feel like editors will sort of put it there as a way of just making the video like maybe more like entertaining if they feel like not super confident about their work, you know. And for me it is a big thing where it's like if all I hear is my voice and then silence behind it, I get kind of self-conscious, and I think I need to make this more engaging somehow or distract people from my voice. And so I have a lot of fun finding songs that are like niche references to what I'm talking about. Like Stephen Colbert, one of his favorite bands is Neutral Milk Hotel, so I play like an instrumental of that band during my section talking about him. And I get some comments being like, why is Neutral Milk Hotel playing? And then I get other people who are like, this is a really good reference, good job, you know? And so I like to have fun with it in that way, but every now and again I'll have a section where I'm like, there's literally no music I can humanly think of that like is like that could be a reference. So I guess I'm just gonna find some music that like sounds good, I guess. And so I was thinking like your videos are already good with like the silence. So if you start to incorporate music into it even more, I'm excited to see what that looks like for you.
Thank you.
Because people have different philosophies.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like you should just play to your strengths and play to what you like. Like there's some people that are just really good at talking and they're like a lecturer. Like they're like, and that's great. Maybe it just is their voice and maybe some images and that works for them. But I think someone who spent so much time invested in editing, like that just makes sense to me to try and bring some creative editing in. And that's kind of what I mentioned in Jake Begeller's Zelda video. He does a little bit of creative editing as far as cutting things together. And I was like, because, as much as I hate having to, do homework assignments and chores like everybody else. And so as much as I hated having to do like essays throughout school, there are a few of them that stand out to me of like, I did like what I ended up making there, what I ended up like arguing there. Like I had a college essay about like, is there not like a permanent core self, or are you just like a collection of selves? Or like it would get into some good questions like that. And I think about like tackling a serious topic like that, but then being able to show any clip from anything that you've ever seen and combine sounds from anything you've ever seen and maybe ways that connect to you, and kind of like the intro to the quarter life crisis chapter, I kind of spliced together some things that just resonated for me, like in the Incredibles movie, their depictions of just how draining and mundane like the 9-to-5 like white life is. That's always really like stuck with me,
Yeah, you're kind of speaking to how like in this medium you can pull from your head like your repertoire of things you've watched and listened to, and now you can use them in these abstract ways to kind of support what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. And you can. I feel like I guess earlier I talked a little bit about like fears of like the information age, how there's like too much that you could ever watch. There's some beautiful things, and that when you make connections between 8 different things that are like scattered across, I think that's really, really cool when you can find like the common denominator, or you can like pull things together. Like, I don't know, I feel like we all have like, you tend to assume that people know the same things that you know, so you might say something that feels like common knowledge to you, and someone's like, oh, I never thought about it that way. Because like they've seen a different combination of things than the combination of things that you've seen.
That's kind of how I felt watching some of your videos, honestly, because like even with those SpongeBob episodes, like you were pointing out how some of them, the entire premise has to do with like crisis or existentialism. And it's like on paper, it's like, well, no duh. This is about, Mr. Krabs getting old, or Squidward having trouble with errands, or Patrick struggling to work a job. But in a way, I had just never directly or consciously thought about it. Maybe like my brain did, but I never reflected on it that way. So just like even you doing that, I was just like, oh, huh.
Oh, yeah, and going back...
And you made it your job to then break into that and talk about it, which anybody could do on their oown. But, you're the guy who organized it and laid it out, and it was really good. And so... Yeah.
Going back to someone who's a very repeat watcher, like this is why I am a consumer of these like long form videos and stuff. Like I just love seeing other people's perspective on a thing that I already like, very repeat. If I love a show or a movie, I might watch it a bunch of times. If I love an album, I'll definitely listen to it a bunch of times. And then I love going through and watching a bunch of different people's like first reaction to that album, because that adds more depth to me to see all these other people's experience with the album. Sorry if I just added some sounds there, but
no. Are you talking about any particular album, or you just mean
just in general? Like, you know, like, so an album I loved recently is the new Lil Yachty album, Let's Start Here.
I still haven't finished it because
So
I
good.
just keep listening to track 1.
Track 1's one of the best.
It's so good that I just keep like
dude, it kicks ass. And
the Black Seminole is so cool.
Yeah.
What was the channel reacting to it?
Oh, there's a bunch of them.
Oh.
I just mean like
well,
as like a repeat watcher. Like, so
okay.
I'll love that album, and then I'll go watch 5 different people's reactions to it, because that to me is continuing my like exploration into that album. But now I'm taking other people's opinions into consideration.
Yeah, this channel, okay.
Turning the Tables is great. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a father and son, and they react.
Kevin and Connor, I think.
I think what makes this channel like so fun to watch is that the father clearly like loves music, and
I always love that.
super open to modern sounds.
Yeah.
So like whether or not he's listening to Mac Miller or Kanye or the or fucking JPEG Mafia.
Okay, wait. There's one I want. You don't have to watch this right now, but later there's I'm sorry. Go ahead. I totally cut you off.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say, like, no matter what, the dad is always like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And it's really nice, like, seeing this guy, like, just, like, kind of bond with his son and enjoy, like, the shit that he's showing him and stuff. And, like...
It's a very cool generational handshake moment of, like, good music knows good music kind of thing.
And they kind of pause song to song to, like, reflect on the songs as they listen to them. And so, for me, like, I was actually pulling up more so videos of them reacting to albums I have heard before.
Yep, me too.
Because it was kind of as you're describing.
It's less about.
It was exciting seeing two people experience first time joy from something I've loved for a while, and it kind of almost reignited that for me.
Yeah.
So like Arctic Monkeys, My Favorite Worst Nightmare.
Yes.
This is probably one of the first 10 albums I listened to in my entire life, and to this day, it's one of my favorites. And seeing this dude just get so excited by like the
there's a vicarious thing to their first time listening to it. Yeah, it's like it's absolutely that. Like, same on this note, it's like the video I was gonna ask you to pull up is like a dude who, I guess this is the only video I've seen from him.
Yeah.
But when Kendrick Lamar's The Heart Part 5 came out, search guitar Heart Part 5. Like, I'm sorry to this dude. He has a good channel, but he makes guitar videos. It's probably that guy. Yep, that guy. Hearing Kendrick Lamar for the very first time. This is like the only video I've seen from him. I assume he makes good guitar videos. But basically, he normally does guitar lessons or whatever, and everyone's like, dude, this Kendrick, like, can't stop talking about this new Kendrick Lamar video. And so he listens to Kendrick Lamar for the first time. It's just like blown away. And there's something so amazing about watching someone who has a career-long understanding of music. Like, this guy's probably been in music for decades.
Yeah.
And I guess I have watched a second video because he did a second Kendrick Lamar one.
Yeah.
And he talks about how he's such a live music stickler. Like, he doesn't listen to like studio recorded stuff. And to me, I'm like, I've never heard of that. I didn't know there were people out there that just solely prefer live music. So he hasn't even invested in this whole world. Anyway, there's something beautiful about
look at his face.
Yeah.
I mean, he's into it.
There's something beautiful about, like, hey man, this song and video is so fucking good, you should react to it. And a guy who knows nothing about Kendrick Lamar but does have a different background in music comes and be's like, holy shit, this is really fucking good, and he articulates it in a way that I've never heard before because it's different than the other people I've heard talk about it. Like,
I think part of what's really exciting about that is, like, you know, obviously, like in the 2010s when we were in high school, there was like a meme of like, oh, you're wearing a Nirvana shirt, name 3 of their songs, right? And so now, like, we've all gone through this thing of like hipster gatekeeping to like making fun of that behavior. And so but even still, it's like when we kind of sometimes get snooty and we expect everybody to have heard of the important things and to have a baseline of things that they've heard. And it's like, oh, if you like Kanye, you got to listen to this first before you listen to this. The idea of hearing Jesus is king before hearing blank, that's crazy. But that being said, everybody in the world kind of, they have to hear about something for the first time one way or another.
And there's so much shit
now. There's so many different ways somebody could just randomly, accidentally find out about something for the first time. And so, The Heart Part 5 for someone might be the very first way or time that a guy heard it, and sure, you could react and be like, how's that possible, blah blah blah. But then in the end, if you do allow the person the space to just let that happen organically, you get these really awesome reactions, and it's a cool thing to see.
That's one of my pet peeves that I inevitably will make a video ranting about how, like, and I don't know if you've seen the show, I Think You Should Leave. I have a couple videos on it on Rock.
I've kind of intentionally not finished any of the seasons because I'm like loving the show, but sometimes comedy that's like based in a lot of like yelling or like like just high energy shit, sometimes it can be really funny but also a little draining on me. And I do really like Tim Robinson, so I'm kind of in this sweet spot where if I'm ever in the mood, there is an episode that I haven't seen waiting for me. So I've just taken the show like really slow.
No problem.
But it's excellent.
There's a bit in that one that encapsulates this feeling perfectly because he's trying to. We started the perspective of someone who's just trying to get through a parking lot and there's an asshole just fucking around in front of him. So we're just with him, like frustrated, like, what's this asshole? Let me go around this guy. And he tries to go around him and he gets cut off. And so he yells out his window, hey man, don't you know how to fucking drive? And Tim's character responds, no, I don't know how to drive. Not everyone knows everything. Driving isn't the only thing. And that
I've
seen
that sketch, by the way.
That one hits on something. Again, I will rant about this in a future video probably. Like, we live in an age where we have access to like infinite content, from TVs to movies to books to podcasts to anything and everything else. Not everyone knows everything. Not everyone has seen everything. And that's why it always like irks me when someone's like, you haven't seen this thing, because no matter who you are, there's thousands of things that you haven't seen yet. You know, like we could go down forever. All the branches in music and genres and TV shows. Like, I think there should be a little more, I don't know, a little more just acknowledgement of that.
Giving
like,
people grace.
Giving people grace, but also just going back to Jacob Geller once again. Dude makes a lot of great points. He talks about that, I think, in the Zelda video. He calls it walking backwards into culture. And the example he uses...
that's a good way of putting it.
The example he uses is seeing a Simpsons episode as a kid that's doing like a reenactment of a dance scene from another movie. And that's written for the people who have... the adults who've seen the movie, and then they're like, oh, the Simpsons is doing this. But as a kid watching that, that's how you learned about that dance. You are seeing the remix. You are seeing the parody before you see the original. Walking backwards into culture.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest examples of that I always think of is that when you're a kid or a young adult, there's certain actors that you think of as like the older actors. And then for your parents, they're actually thinking of them as one of the younger modern actors who are just now old.
And you realize everything's relative.
And so there's certain actors from like our upbringing who would be considered like young, who, you know, our children or whatever will just think of like, oh, that's one of those old actors. And like right now, I have a coworker who's 19, and so that's been blowing my mind talking to him about different perspectives, because like Ruby and Sapphire Pokemon came out in 2003, and that felt like a new, exciting thing. This guy was born in 2004, so he was telling me his first console is the Wii. So when I told him my first console was N64, he said like, oh, that's really old. And the thing is like this age discussion happened because we were talking about music, and he was saying how he's barely been to any concerts, and I was telling him how like I recently saw Phoenix, and the like lead singer walked up to me and my brother to like hoist him up above the crowd, and he was like, man, I want to have one of those experiences. That sounds really cool. And he was like, what are some of your favorite bands? And I said the White Stripes. He was like, the White Stripes? I was like, Jack White? And he was like, Jack White? He's like, what would I know from him? And like in my head, like my, you know, dumb instincts went off to get all jaded, like, man, this kid. But then like, you know, I like hummed Seven Nation Army, and he was like, oh, Seven Nation Army, that's like one of the biggest songs ever. And I was like, yeah, that album came out in like 2003, and he went, I wasn't born yet. And that blew my fucking mind. But the thing is like in this conversation, he was like so excited about some of the music I was telling him about, and I was telling him about some of my concert experiences, and he was like, that sounds so cool. And I realized like, okay, I shouldn't be like a jaded asshole because people exist after I existed. It's more literally. So like people just kind of find things the way that they find them. And
people take it so fucking personally. Like I remember, maybe this was a few years ago by now, but people were mad at like Billie Eilish because she hadn't heard of some classic band or singer or something, and it's like,
yeah. And
sorry, I don't know literally all the things that you know, like.
Yeah, and I think young women, like young famous women, are like targeted that way the most because for whatever reason you have some like beautiful like singer or actress who's like a young person, and like I feel like interviewers just love to like frame them as like some dumb, like, you don't deserve, you dumb silly girl who shouldn't be famous because you're too young for that. You haven't heard of this.
Yeah,
like I feel like that's like such a like media thing that's like happened forever.
Yeah, just bullshit, trying to make a story out of it.
Yeah, just trying to like frame someone as like, look, they're famous and rich, but they don't know nothing about the world. Isn't that, you know, it's just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's exhausting.
Yeah. I had some point to make at some point about, but I don't remember now.
It's all good. We'll find a spot. But yeah, I guess one thing I was talking about earlier was, you know, like watching, you know, maybe I'll watch like a new movie that comes out and then I'll watch several different video essays about that, or an album comes out, I watch several different people's reactions to it. Like, it just adds depth to the thing I already like to see other people's, you know, like when you watch a really good show and maybe you see a post online that points out some things you missed. It's just like the endless pursuit of that, like just looking at it with more depth.
Yeah, and I think that like what you're describing is like why I like the video essays that are very well researched, very well written. They have like very good supporting evidence, because like it is one of these things where if I want to like nerd out into a subject, it is really fun to learn and kind of have these themes and emotions that you felt be even stronger and broadened by like other people's similar perspective, and then like the new stuff they're bringing to you that you didn't know about. And you know, there is so much fucking content and we only have like so much time, and so if I do click on a video and then it's just like kind of a bunch of nothing for a bunch of minutes, I'm like, that I feel kind of robbed now. And it's like every now and again there are channels that are more casual, but they still deliver like good stuff. You know, like for instance, there's this one channel I've been really loving. Her name is the Ghosty Ghoul, or like the Ghosty Girl, or something like that. And I'm like subscribed to like a zillion channels. Here, let me find it while I'm talking. She's been doing like very, man, maybe I won't be able to find her channel. Tim. There it is. Yeah, so she has like a little under 500 subscribers, but she's been like posting incredibly consistently, like multiple times a month. And the way she's been doing it is she kind of has just been like, she spends a lot of the runtime on just like footage of herself in her room, you know? And then a lot of the footage she's using, like it looks like maybe they were like ripped from like GIFs even. Like they look like a little bit lower quality like files. But the thing is like, who freaking cares? Because her writing is good and she's making good points. And I think that like tonally wise, like just like the aesthetic and like the vibe of her channel is just like really pleasant, you know? And so, yeah, like channels that are even doing stuff in a little bit more of a casual way, like editing wise, can still be like super good.
Right, absolutely.
And kind of like what you're saying, like I love Miyazaki and a lot of the philosophies of his movies, and so this is a channel I can go to kind of further explore those like thoughts and feelings that I have, you know?
100%. Yeah, and especially if it goes back to being efficient, you know, if in an hour-long video you're actually getting what they put several months into, you know, there's a lot you can get out of it. And I think another thing I love about video essays is there's a lot of people analyzing art, but they're also artists themselves, I think, in what they're making. You know, it's really cool. There's both sides.
Yeah, that's good that you said that, because yes, they are analyzing art, but I think that like analysis and writing and like video essays and stuff like are art themselves. And I think sometimes it's the channels I get the most jaded towards are the ones that it starts to feel a little bit less like art itself and more like they're kind of just making like an assembly line product where all their videos are kind of exactly the same and like super templated out. And then like I start to be like, this doesn't feel as like earnest as maybe some of the other ones I've seen.
Yeah. I wanna make stuff, again, I'm gonna make whatever I want about whatever topic I want, but I want to make videos that feel different, you know, still like stuff that you're not sure where it's going to go. Those are the ones that stick with me the most, that compel me the most.
What I was gonna say earlier when I was pulling up your most recent one, Catastrophe, Crisis, and SpongeBob, whatever. Is that the?
Yeah, it's Crisis, Catastrophe, and SpongeBob.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think maybe the concept in here that's been the most helpful to me lately is when you talk about the amygdala and like the worry response that human beings have. I was trying to pause it. I was trying to pause it on that picture you have of the brain.
Oh yeah, there's one at the beginning of.
It's funny when you know your edit this well.
No, for real.
Yeah, okay, so you talk about all these like PhD, like psychological, like scientific concepts of like fear and anxiety and panic and stuff. And I am like one of the most worrisome people ever. Like I get highly paranoid and worrisome and anxious like all the fucking time. And like I know sometimes it's just like useless, but then I still do it. But for me, like something that helps me in life a lot is just hearing somebody say something and just the right way. Like sometimes you just hear the right words and it just clicks with you as an epiphany, or maybe something you can just remember or harken back to in the back of your mind when you're in a pickle. And so like lately, like when I've been worrying about things, like I kind of have been thinking about your video, because you talk about how like this part of the brain can flare up that makes us like highly worried, and sometimes it can be like way disproportionate to like what's actually happening, or at the very least like no longer helpful. And you kind of laid out that like when you're worrying about something, it's like, okay, worry to the point that you now are thinking of like a solution, and then after that it's like kind of useless and you're kind of just torturing yourself.
That was the distinction I had to make, is the difference between planning and worrying, because that's the trap that I fall into a lot. Again, that's why I made this video, because I saw Squidward freaking out over nothing. I was like, that's what I do. I've been catching myself doing that regularly, and through making the video, it's still something I'm actively working on being better about. But exactly that. Like to the point where my problem with it is feeling like you're helping the problem by worrying about it, because you're spending energy thinking on it, like you're thinking about it, like you're getting closer to a solution, or you're getting a little more prepared for it. When really that's the exact thing, like keeping you in the uncomfortable worry that doesn't need to exist. So it's an ongoing practice of like making a plan and then moving on, that I'm working on instilling too.
Yeah, something you it's always crazy to me when I have these like kind of abstract feelings or thoughts in my head, and then like you actually hear someone else in the real world like lay it out like in words, and you're like, oh shit. And like something you said in there that was it for me is like, you were describing worrying as like as if that's helping the situation, and you described like maybe if you think of this worst case scenario in your head long enough, then you'll be extra prepared when it happens. And it's like you're kind of almost just making yourself emotionally experience that thing happening to you that might not even happen, and then even if it did, it would still be hard. Like it's like worrying a bunch and picturing it happening maybe actually won't help you. It'll still suck. So it's like, why do that early? And like I do that. I realize like that is what I'm doing all the time. Like I'm just thinking of worst case scenarios as if to like prepare for it, which is just like so not healthy.
So it was really interesting to dive into, kind of the science of that. Like I spent a few months kind of just like reading the books, and that's again the approach of going back to I'll make whatever I want. Like I love the open-endedness of these self-imposed projects you take with like video essays. Like maybe I want to read these 4 books and watch these 3 seasons. Maybe I want to read 1 book and watch 1 movie. Maybe this song and this moment from this, like it doesn't matter what it is. Like any connection can be made as long as there actually is a connection there. Like I'm only going to make videos unless I actually feel like I have something to say.
That's how I feel too. It's because I think like so often people start to make a career out of this, which is good, but then they start to think like, okay, calculating what should I talk about next to keep this going, versus like what got you there in the first place, talking about something that like you genuinely were already thinking about and had something to say.
Exactly. So I guess that's the dream, is to be set up in a spot where I'm already enjoying these things anyway. I'm already listening to this music, watching these shows, reading these books anyway, and now when I have thoughts and feelings about them, I can organize them into a video, and then there's a place where I can put that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the ideal.
Yeah, and like I remember like another thing you said in the video that like I super believe is like you're generally like how good your life is kind of like how you feel through the day-to-day events, because it's like if you have all these nice things but you don't necessarily feel like good or content during them, then it's like, is your life good? And you know, you think about all these, you know, grind culture people that are trying to have like the nicest car, the nicest house, the most amount of money or whatever, but then it's like, I don't know, how much enjoyment are they actually, or like how much like rest, I guess.
Yeah.
And so like you kind of you use some SpongeBob examples of people having life comparison, like Mr. Krabs as if he has the nice successful life, and Plankton who's like the failure, and you show that when Plankton is in Mr. Krabs's life, he's still like not happy, you know. And like, yeah, for me, I can, you know, buy a nice new desk or a nice new computer, or I can like be proud of myself for having these video ideas. But if I'm like hating working on things, or I'm dreading working on things, or I'm like anxious all day long or whatever it is, I'm like, dang, no matter how accomplished I am or how many nice things I've gotten for myself or how comfortable I've made my situation, if I just still feel terrible all day because of these unresolved things with myself on the inside, then it's like life isn't good per se. And that's why I think like tackling these inward emotional things that can get you to a more content place in your day-to-day life is like so important.
For sure, absolutely. It's like that is your life, you know. And no matter where you go, there you are. And there's the human condition that, I don't know if it's homeostasis or whatever else, but something about like never, you know, you'll never do something that absolves you from all future like suffering and problems. Like, you know, life is an ongoing string of like solving problems and new events and new challenges. And I think that it's just a story that we've been told so much. Like we know that money and material things aren't happiness, you know? Like I think we know that shaping up a life that you actually enjoy is more of like a true form of success, where like if you wake up and look forward to the day you have ahead of you, and then when you go to bed you're proud of the day that you had, like that sounds like a good life. If that's what's happening for you regularly, that's what it's all about.
And I know it is like a cheesy thing that is like said all the time, but I think like gratitude and just like kind of practicing like in the moment, just being kind of enjoying or at least thankful of like some of the things you have is like really like sometimes the quickest way to get there. Because like I really honestly do think I like unfortunately spend like most of or a lot of my like just wakeful being just kind of being worried or catastrophizing. Like that is just kind of how I unfortunately feel and think like a lot of the time.
It's a shocking percent of my existence.
Yeah, but then you like, and then I'll like look back on past eras of my life, you know, all like romantically, and I'm like, man, I was freaking out then though. And so I'm like, okay, well right now is something I'm gonna look back on, and so let me just like enjoy like what is here while I'm here.
Exactly.
You know, it can be difficult, but like it's kind of what you got to do. And something I've kind of come to as well is like I think like happiness is less so the goal and more so being content, because like happiness is like a great feeling, but I think it's just super unrealistic to think that you just feel like good and like pumped up with upward emotion all the time. And I think what's more realistic is like just having like a default setting of like content, you know, because I think that like existence just equals like pain and anxiety just inherently from just like having tasks and responsibilities and like a physical body. And so it's like kind of being able to get your just default mode from anxious to like close to content, so then you're just kind of going about your business, you're good, and then if something makes you happy, then that's great. I think that's like a good place to try to be, just trying to hit like a calm equilibrium rather than like this idea of like I want to be happy all the time.
That's the goal, is definitely moving towards a more comfortable quality of life. I've had a lot of the same thoughts. Like I don't know if existence itself is pain. Like that's definitely what a more cynical version of myself would say. Maybe existence is
what comes with it, I think, at the very least.
Existence is like the potential for feeling, and the potential for feeling means inevitable pain, but maybe also inevitable positives, you know?
No, absolutely.
I don't know. I'm just a rock.
Yeah, we'll cut to Rock Boy. But yeah, I like what you're doing a lot. I haven't watched all your videos yet, but also like yeah, I like that some of them are very introspective and about feelings and kind of, like I am a person in front of you saying that this has helped me. So
great. I'm amazed that it has. And yeah.
Yeah, and then you have the other videos where you're just kind of diving in, talking about like art and like why it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just analyzing media, learning stuff, leveling up, definitely introspective sometimes.
Do you have a desire to like make like narrative stories, whether it's a movie or short films or comics, cartoons?
Yeah, but I'm in no rush.
Okay.
I think I feel like life experience has got to be one of the best things with writing, and so I think for people, this is just my guess, but I think for people who want to write like TV shows and movies and stuff, like you can do that in your 30s and 40s. Like you don't have to rush to do that. I think everything you've learned will come to crescendo.
Yeah.
In that. So some of my friends and I talk about this TV show we're going to write when we're 40. It's like an ongoing joke, and it probably will happen eventually. But I feel like I'm still doing all the living that's like collecting those experiences that will be episodes later.
I remember when I was like a freshman in college back in 2014, one of our teachers who was like a professional screenwriter, something he told us was like, you guys right now are in a better position to write like a good high school movie than me or any of my peers. He was like, because you just lived that. So he was like, like write your truth, write like what's honest to you. He's like, don't feel like you got to make some like epic about 40-year-old mercenaries or whatever. He's like, you got, and so it's fun. Like I do hear what you're saying about like not being in a rush, and how like greatness will come later in life. But I'm just always finding a way to feel.
You got an idea now, do it now.
Well, that's the fucking thing is now.
There's another great CJ the X video. It's one of their most recent. It's called 7 Deadly Art Sins, and there's a really good bit. I believe they're talking about perfectionism because they talk about it in a couple of videos. But there's a really good bit in that feels like a friend giving you a healthy personal attack of like, while you're being precious about this piece of art you're not releasing, like you're actually like hurting yourself. Like they have a lot of fantastic bits about like unlearning the disease of perfectionism.
Well, see, like lately I've been thinking like, okay, well now I'm in my late 20s, which is like so weird, and I've just been thinking like, well crap, if I'm gonna write I guess like some coming of age movie, I'm like, I guess maybe that's like something I should start working on, since now I'm like currently the closest to that time in my life, I guess. So it's funny, like in a way, like I hear you about like not being in a rush and like, okay, I can write things in my 30s and 40s, but then otherwise I'm like, well, I am experiencing a version of life right now that I won't be later. And so even still, I'm like, I'm just always hard on myself about like not fleshing out ideas like when I should be. Because I'm so tired of writing down an idea and then not getting to it because I'm doing other things.
Yeah.
But I had the idea right now, so I'm inspired by it right now.
Yeah.
But it's just but it just becomes a thing I wrote down months ago.
Right.
And then like way later, I'm like then looking at it. I'm trying to get better at like fleshing out things even a little bit like as I'm having it, because I realize like, okay, this is the moment it's like the most fresh and interesting to me, and then later I'm gonna more so be remembering how it made me feel when I had the idea, if that makes sense.
And then there's the version of you that's drawing the blueprint, which might take a day. Then there's the version of you that's laying the bricks, which might take a month, and you kind of just do that labor of building the spaceship or whatever you're building.
I saw that new movie Bottoms last night. Have you heard of it? Okay, so do you know the actress Rachel Sennett?
No.
From here. So freaking, have you seen the show The Bear?
No.
Damn you.
Hey man, not everyone knows everything.
I know, that's so true. So, okay, this girl, Rachel Sennett, she starred in this movie that's like really freaking good. I think it's a perfect movie called Shiva Baby.
Okay.
And this girl has been getting really big because she's like the second main character in The Bear. And the director of Shiva Baby also is like just like a young woman in her 20s, like these two, you know? And I'm like, not only is like being a young director kind of rare, but also it's like Hollywood is very sexist and stuff, and I'm just like, man, this is like so rad that this director is like making such good stuff.
Yeah.
And this was interesting to me because Shiva Baby is like it's like a comedy that's shot and tonally feels like a horror movie in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bottoms is like this kind of brighter, just like high school movie, you know? And like these two, I was like, are they gonna play high schoolers? You know? But but I saw it last night, and like it is so goddamn funny, and like these two do freaking great, and the movie just kind of exists in this like world of like unreality where like very ridiculous things happen. Like it's a lot less grounded than something like Superbad.
Yeah.
And like these two, like I my suspension of disbelief was like good. Like I was just able to accept like, okay, they're playing high schoolers in this movie, even though, you know, they're very clearly like adults. And the movie was just so funny. And I wound up seeing this post on Instagram from the director about how her and then Rachel, the lead actress, they like kind of just wrote this movie together, just getting together every week in coffee shops for like the last 5 years, just coming up with jokes together, writing like goals, and they just kind of just made a thing happen. And I don't know how old they are. I have to assume, you know, 20s. And I was just thinking like, oh man, that's like so fun. It just, I don't know. I have a deep desire to like be creative and like make cool stuff with my friends.
Yeah,
like, it got me kind of inspired. Like, oh, I guess I could try to like write something like this like now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, whatever you want to make, I feel like that's what you should follow. Whatever the inspiration takes you.
Yeah.
So absolutely, if whatever you make, man, you know, I'm always down to watch it.
Yeah, and so. You started making your channel, I know, because you said you were a little burnt out on like the traditional filmmaking of like shooting on set music videos and stuff like that. How's that feeling been for you?
I think it just became more work than fun at some point for me, and so I wasn't making any art for a while. I kind of spent some time taking a much needed break, and then found interest in video essays. And like I said, I'll still do some music videos here and there as like passion projects, but I think just following my natural curiosity, this is kind of where it's taking me. This is like a new combination of interests that I've never got to see kind of like an interplay before, like from writing, because I've always done some writing like throughout school and stuff, like nothing too crazy, but for the first step of making a video now to be writing like maybe 20 pages, 25 pages, and then working on like my voice acting, if you want to call it, or your script reading, your performance, whatever. I don't know, it just feels like the right creative direction for me. And it is kind of a full circle moment, because ever since I've been in like elementary school, making YouTube videos, I've always just wanted to have a big YouTube channel. And it's very weird to have put like 5 years into music videos and get so far, and then to start making video essays, and they're received like quite well. Like I'm getting more subs on YouTube from one video than I ever did in 5 years of music videos. Is very bizarre. But you know, I feel like it started on the note of I'm just making the stuff I want to make, and I'm going to keep doing that.
Yeah, I remember the last time you were on, you know, obviously we were talking with you more so within the context of being like a music video director, and I've been having so much fun with YouTube. I remember during the episode I was very much so like, don't you want to build this into like a big channel? Like I felt like I was trying to like push you into like making it like a big channel or whatever. And so, and I remember you were saying you were very content with like, I don't know if I really want to like commit to running a channel that way, and I'm okay with like the artists posting the videos on their own pages, blah blah blah. But so it was kind of funny to see you like now turn around and talk about how like you do sort of have wanted to be a YouTuber for a long time, but now you're just doing it in like a completely different way.
Yeah, one thing about me, I change my mind all the time. And that happens on a large scale from year to year basis, and that happens on a day-to-day basis on a small scale. But yeah, I listened to like the first few minutes of our last podcast, and I was like, yeah, really deep in music videos at that point. And that's just how my interests work. Like I don't know how long I'll be on video essays, as long as it's fun to me.
Sure.
but I feel like every part of your journey, like, all comes together in unexpected ways. Like, I think undoubtedly the time I spent in music videos heavily informs my creative process when I'm making like video essays, and I'm very happy about that. Like, over 5 years, you get better at learning how you like to work and how you like to ideate and sketch and then actually execute videos. So I've had a lot of time to see how I like to work, how I don't like to work, and, you know, bringing all these elements together, I think it's an unexpected direction for me, but it feels right.
Yeah. Maybe we can kind of start to wrap up. Maybe one last thing we can talk about that I remember at the very beginning we said we would, and we never did, was the energy you have to put on when you're recording a narration.
Yeah.
Dude, okay, one thing that I have never, from what I've seen at least, gotten a comment on that I'm so shocked by.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my video essays I'm like working on for months, and then like during the process I'll just decide to like write a whole new paragraph, like just in the middle somewhere. And so I'll have to go like write and record a new thing. Throughout my video essays, there are very many voiceover sections where my voice sounds like completely different than another section, because maybe I was like sick,
it's the next day,
or I'm in a completely different room, or I'm just reading it with like a different cadence, and to me it's like so obvious, but then nobody comments. But then I feel like I've literally never once noticed that when I'm listening to other people's videos. So with you doing a 1 hour video, did you just do that whole narration in one long session? No.
Okay, so
Is it broken up a bunch?
Not a bunch. Like, most of it's from like the same day of recording, but there definitely is a fair amount of other stuff I either recorded later or like redid and stuff like that.
Does your voice or the recording quality sound mad different to you?
To me it sounds different, but maybe it only really sounds different when I'm making that decision of because then it's so obvious, like, oh, it sounds so different, they'd be able to notice. But then once I already did that and forget about it, it's like, to them this could have just been another take. And there's plenty of people I watch where the like second them coming in to have like an amendment to what they're saying is so casual and regular that I don't mind at all. Like, they'll have them in their main speaking spot making their point, and then cut to them at their laptop, be like, hey, here at the editing bay, I feel like I got off track, I just want to make my point clear. And I don't mind that at all. No. And so once I realized that when I watch other people, I don't mind at all if they like cut to, like, if anything, it adds more, like, oh, they thought about this the next day, it was like, I actually want to make this clear. I've learned to like embrace that, and I think that's, again, like something to be used to our advantage in video essays, is that you can record something the next day or the next week right after and put it right in between like something. Like, it's very, I think, embracing the fact that it can be edited, as in like amended or fixed, is something that's really unique to video essays.
I don't know about you, but I get fucking exhausted when I'm done reading my scripts. Like, I feel I feel like out of breath. And like, every single line I like
and it's so weird being by yourself trying to put up that energy and be like, if my neighbors hear me, I sound like a fucking crazy person.
I feel
I'm yelling about Squidward and Mr. Krabs in my apartment.
Like, because I'm like reading the script and I'm trying to say the words right and like not fumble, and like you're trying to say it with like a good speaking voice, because and like I can get in my head and feel stupid, and then I have to say like every single sentence like 5 times, and then it's just like on and on. So by the time I'm done, I'm just like all tired, and then like I got to come back like a few weeks later to add this whole new thing. And so I've gotten like a fair amount of comments before that says, bro, you're so monotone, or I dislike this video because you're annoying to listen to. Like, I've gotten a lot.
Yeah, there's some mean ones.
I'm just like, I'm trying,
there's
man.
Some mean ones.
Like,
you get those.
And it's funny because I'm like, dude, I'm like literally like actively trying to sound good on audio to not have you think this, and you're still
Thanks for engaging on the video is what I always say.
That's how I think about it now. Anytime I get some shitty comment, I'm like, well, this just helps the algorithm, I guess. So I was, you and I were earlier talking about it, about like being like a game show host.
Having a newfound respect for game show hosts, because when your job is to, in 15 or 30 seconds convey the premise of what we're doing, the significance, get us excited about it, it's actually pretty tough gig. You know, you just put a
Yeah.
guy up there unprepared, they're gonna blow it.
Yeah.
What are we watching? You know.
Well, I see. Like, I went to LA to see the H3 podcast live, and like Ethan, I think has grown to be like a really good, like confident, like podcast host, which is kind of more like broadcast. But then, as far as like being up there and like let's say like setting up a game or something and keeping everything going, you know, it's like he's pretty good. He's probably way better than the average person. But it can be kind of easy, I think, maybe to just fall into like dead space or maybe not being totally confident in what you're saying. They wound up bringing out surprise guest Howie Mandel, who is like a game show host extraordinaire.
Veteran.
I remember like being there in person and seeing how just like on target he was and how much he was keeping the segment going and like explaining the rules and keeping the energy up. And being like, here's what we're doing, here's how it's gonna work, your team. And I was like, whoa, this is like
you're like a conductor. You're like keeping things moving.
Because Ethan was doing a good job, but then this guy who like it's like his main thing. I was just like, damn.
Yeah,
like,
it's one of those things where you
Howie's
think,
good.
oh, talk show hosts, like they have the easiest job ever, until you truly understand like what an effective one does versus an amateur. It's like, wow, you're incredible at.
That's the thing is like I was pretty dang critical of like some talk show hosts in my video, but even still, like I recognize like even at this level of criticism, they're very good at what they're doing.
It's the infinite dance between like being the fan that feels like they know what all fans want, and then being the creator that's trying to make that thing for the fans. Like while I'm watching a thing, I'm like, oh, I just wish they would do it like this. And then it's your ultimate quest as an artist to like take that idea and actually bring it to reality. 'Cause it's so much harder to be the one actually making it than to be the fan requesting it from the couch.
Well, yeah, I remember sometimes in film school there was this one professor who was like really wise, but sometimes we would be like showing our edit of our movie in front of the class, and she would say like, you know, maybe this should happen, or the story should go this way, or during this scene, like, could you maybe reshoot it like this? And I remember a lot of times like students would feel like, dude, I would have had to have been making the movie differently and with that in mind the entire time I was making the movie to make that work. Or like in other words, it's like they're giving out a suggestion of like, well, yeah, I guess I could, but at that point I would have to like redo the whole thing because that's just not even where my mind was. I don't know if this point is making sense, but it's just like kind of like what you're saying of like, I wish they would just do it this way. It's like you don't know what went into even making what you're seeing, and for all you know, like that thing that feels so simple, like why didn't they just make it this way? It's like maybe that thing it wouldn't have even been clear until they did it this like wrong way first. Like some things are some improvements aren't even like you. It's like if you knew where I started, that would have never even occurred to me. That's kind of what I'm 100%. Getting at.
No, I agree fully.
Yeah.
I think yeah, I agree.
Yeah. We're at 2.5 hours.
All right. Hell yeah, dude.
You want to just wrap up?
That sounds good to me.
I feel like you and I could kind of just talk about movies and stuff forever.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on, and Christ, Catastrophe and Spongebob.
Yeah, so everybody subscribe to Lvl1 Rock if you like video essays, which we just talked about for 2 hours, so I hope you do.
Yeah, more to come.
Yeah. All right, well.
This
is like the most like lackluster ending ever.
Bye, everyone.
Because I know we're just going to keep talking as friends as soon as I hit cut.
Yeah. All right. The show goes on.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Amazing.
I'm going to hit cut on the OBS.
One more time.
Yeah.